and it's Mother's Day weekend. So come on over. All right. YouTube. What's up, people? This is Niki with Homeschool Knockouts. And I'm just getting off of IG, just letting them know that we are live. And I am actually kind of on time. Come on over on YouTube, IG. I'll see you over there. Okay. So, okay, let me make sure I close out of that. What's up, my beautiful people? Again, this is Niki with Homeschool Knockouts. It is Friday. It is Mother's Day weekend, and I am very excited to talk about this topic today. And I hope you guys are too. And I hope you're coming in with your questions, your concerns, your wonderings. For those of you that are new, my name is Niki, and I talk about all things homeschool. I give advice, motivation. I do curriculum reviews. I do it all, y'all. I consult. I make printables. I just try to make your life easier with a dash of humor to get through the day. So with that said, come on in. We are live. We're streaming at 3 o'clock today versus our usual time of 2:30. So I'm hoping with this later time that more people are able to come in, because more people come in toward the end of the stream, because I think that might work better for people's schedules. So anyway, let's get started. But you know how we do as we come into the room? I ask that it's optional. I ask that you let us know where you are coming from in the world, the planet, the universe, the cosmos, wherever you want to label yourself. Just let us know. We do that so we can build our tribe. And it's always nice to know that there's someone in your neck of the woods or in your neighborhood. So that's why we ask that. We're not trying to get all in your business. Also, we like to ring the bell. I need to come up with a catchy little title for this segment. We ring the bell. This beautiful little crystal bell, signifies wins in our lives. However big, however small, they are wins. And the reason why we do the wins is to let people see that wins come in all shapes and forms. Okay. So that's to help expand your outlook on what you consider a win, and to let you know, to remind you that you are winning. You just don't know it yet. So with all of that said, we are going to jump in with our discussion about preparing our kiddos for middle school. Let me just get a little comfortable. It suddenly got really cold over here, and I had to take off a lot of stuff, a lot of clothes. And I mean, well, I had a lot of clothes on, then I took them off because I've been out running since this morning. And now it's starting to get cold because I was hot. Listen, so there are going to be some slight changes. I will talk about these changes next week. Just know when I do these lives on Friday, I'm going to convert them into podcasts. So I'm going to try to talk to you as if you don't see me at all. Okay. So just in case I'm doing something weird, I'm just trying some stuff out. All right. So I'm going to start with identifying myself. So for those of you who do not know, I live in Southern California. I live in metropolitan Los Angeles, and I've been homeschooling. We've been homeschooling over 12, 13 years, and I have 3 sons, and that's all I need to know right now. So, and I'm in the gardening zone 10B for those of you who garden. So I'm tagging you. So if you are in my neck of the woods, reach out, let me know. My win, and I do have a win. Come on in, guys. I see you guys coming in. Come on in. My win is that yesterday, okay, where was I? No, I was in a car with my son. Yesterday was Thursday. He had PE. 2 of my sons had PE. And my son calls. I'm in the car. I'm working on my project. And it's his lunchtime. And he's all excited, but not the excited like, Mom, there's something going on at school. It was like, Mom, something, good is going on at school. You don't like getting those phone calls in the middle of the day, from your kid. And he was like, man, you made this, because I fried some chicken, which I hadn't done in like 10 years. I always bake chicken, but my youngest son really wanted some fried chicken. So he wore me down, and I had to make it real Southern style. My husband made it into like a chicken sandwich with mac and cheese, because I make mac and cheese with it, and made it for my other son to take to lunch in high school. He took it to lunch, and his football friends at lunch, they saw it, and they were like, "Man, we got to have some of that. We got to have some of that." So they wanted it so bad. One of the boys, the quarterback, actually gave my son $20 for his sandwich. They were like, they hadn't even tasted it yet. It just looked that good. So they tasted it and they were like, "Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. This is like worth the $20. So my son was so happy. So he calls me. He goes, "Mom, I'm starving, but I got $20." Then he was like, "Oh, I think I have a protein bar in my bag and some nuts." But he was so happy. He was like, "Mom, that chicken was so amazing." So I'm giving myself a win because it took me almost 2 hours to fry up a huge batch of chicken. So shout out to Mom for making a big lengthy meal that wasn't a special occasion when I have a lot of work to do. So I was proud of myself that his buddies loved it. He had it last night. He was fine with it, but I was just happy that I was able to make a really good home cooked meal, and my kids loved it. All the kids in my house, everybody in the house loved it. It's always one kid that doesn't want to do anything, which brings me to middle school. Okay, so let's jump into it. Remember, when you come on in, let us know where you're coming from and let us know if you have a win. All right, so let's break it down. Middle school. Now, what is that? Now, middle school, at least from when I was growing up, is 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I'm not talking about junior high, which when I was growing up was just a 9th grade, just 9th grade. And then you went to senior high school. So I'm talking about 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Okay. I know in some districts, like my old school district, it went from K to 6, but I'm talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th. Hey, Razzleberry. Razzleberry from Canada, our neighbors up ahead. Thank you for stopping on by and showing some love. So what is middle school? So middle school is that, and you guys know what this is, but it helps to talk it out. It is that crucial transition period between you doing everything for your kids in elementary school, and in high school, you doing nothing for your kids because they're supposed to be independent, right? They're supposed to be young adults, right? So you got your little people, elementary school, and your young adult, high school. And right here in the middle, what should be the Goldilocks zone, it's not. It's the Kuiper Belt. It's rocks and asteroids and comets and black holes hidden around. That is the zone we are in right now. So I want you to be prepared for that. So our mission is to prepare our young explorers for what's outside of our solar system, which is high school and adulthood. So with middle school, now this will be I have a 6th grader, an 8th grader, and a 10th grader. So this is my third and final go around with middle school. So I learned a number of things and I'm still learning. But I do have a couple of takeaways, some major takeaways that I want you to think about and chew on, because this is actually a really good topic that I can talk on for a long time. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to discuss when we're talking about middle school is not the academics, the extracurriculars, volunteering, things like that. It is about their mind, body, and soul. Okay. Because while you're teaching your child, right, you are really molding and crafting them as a young adult. Okay. So this is where some of these behaviors start to take root. You seed it, it starts to take root. Okay. This is the time when you want to get them straight on how to deal with their emotions, how to identify how they're feeling, and how to express that, which is crazy because during this time, their emotions are all over the place, which is why we have to keep modeling how to express this way versus that way. Okay. That perspective taking, it has to start here, if not even in elementary school, because then if you start in middle school, you have 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th to keep working with them. Okay. So the earlier you start, the more time you have to course correct. And then when you see things that are just right and aligned, you can just really just fine tune that. Okay. So we're really talking about that mind, body, soul connection. Okay. How do we deal with that? Okay. how do we deal with that emotional escalator? Okay. And what I found is that depending on what kind of parenting style you have, the more the more you take that, y'all know I like props, the umbilical cord. Okay. The more it's a long cord, the more you look at this cord. This is the umbilical cord, mom and dad. And your kid right here with the big head, the stubborn head, this is you right here, right? Now, as you're teaching them about behavior, uh, the opposite sex or whatever they're into, you're teaching them about money management. You're teaching them about how to work with others. You're teaching them how to advocate for themselves. Okay. Actually, I'm doing this wrong. This is how it looks. Now you're teaching them about money, how to advocate, how to proper hygiene. We haven't even touched math, ain't even touched English. Look at all this. We're still how to shave, how to care for their body certain times of the month. As we're teaching them all of this, that umbilical cord is getting longer and longer and longer until it snaps. Well, it doesn't really always snap. It's always frayed because the cord is never cut. It's just frayed to death. Okay, frayed, not afraid. And that's where we go. So I want you to think about this. And this is going to be a series because I was so excited thinking about this. So the first thing you want to do is repeat after me. Patience is your friend. Patience, patience. I have to say this because I know last week I blew up with my kid. Patience, patience. What's up, VG? Hey, now listen, VG, I don't know if you want me to put your business out there, but I had someone in my DMs asking about, hey, can you do something on middle school? It might take me a while to get to my what do you call it for IG? I guess DMs. It might take me a while, but I do get to it because I have a lot of people who ask me, like, they'll write like 5 paragraphs. I'm not kidding. And I feel humble that they take all that time to spill their heart out. I can't just give a one word answer. Okay, so sometimes I have to think about it. I want to craft something, or I'm at a loss. Like, I'm like, okay, maybe I can just find a resource if I feel I can't be of service. So VG, thank you for some of the things that you have mentioned, because you have made some great suggestions. And VG is from Indiana, the Hoosier state. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, okay, so we talked about giving our children independence, okay, loosening that umbilical cord. Okay, now what does that look like? Okay, so in real life, your everyday life, if they're not on a chore system, okay, and the chore system is not just get free labor, which of course we want, but it's also like them having a job but not getting paid, and seeing how they show up and how they're consistent with it. Okay, so it's like pre-work, pre-adult stuff. So just maybe 1 or 2 things that you can manage and stay up on. Okay, to do follow up. You don't want to, wear yourself out. Okay. So give them one thing to do and see how many times do you have to tell them to do it. Okay. When they do it, how well do they do it? Do they make excuses about doing it? Just now you're starting to see what kind of character traits they're exhibiting. Why am I talking about this? Because what you do in one area, you do in another area. We call that generalizing. Okay. So if they're flaky, trying to cut corners, trying to like pay somebody to do their chores, okay, they might carry those characteristics into when they do their work, okay? Or when they're out and about in classrooms or enrichment activities, or just out and about in the community. So you want to start watching that, okay? So that's the emotional, behavior, psychological, all that stuff right there. Now, how does that translate into the academics? Okay. Now, one thing that I've told so many women as friends and that I've counseled is self-esteem is what you really have to watch out for during these years, especially if you think your kid is, oh, my child is fine. They do this, or they have friends, blah, 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 blah. Kids are really good at hiding how they feel. Number one, they don't get a lot of practice being able to indulge in their feelings and emotions and things like that, because social interaction is not as much as it was when we were growing up. So we always had opportunities to practice, you know, interacting with people. These kids don't, right? And so they need more practice. They're going to have to practice with you, because there isn't that much practice with the outside world like it was when we were growing up. So the self-esteem, especially moms with girls, that self-esteem, start watching that, okay? Are they really concerned about their weight, how they look, what this girl is doing or what she's not doing? Start paying attention to that. Just keep that in mind, because what's going on over here is going to carry over academically. So let's move over to the academic train. Okay. So, depending on what your homeschooling style is, and when I say style, approach, method, educational philosophy, I'm talking about, do you do eclectic, unschooling, classical, Charlotte Mason, Waldorf, all of that, any of that. Depending on what kind of style you have will determine kind of what your approach is going to be in middle school. Now, for a number of parents, a lot of parents, a majority of parents, I can say that confidently, you're not homeschooling high school. I'm in a big homeschooling hub in this part of the city where I live. And let me tell you, I've seen the drop off in classes from 5th grade to 6th grade. By 8th grade, usually, like, we had, oh my gosh, before the pandemic, we literally had activities, enrichment activities every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. It was just everywhere. And there'll be like 30, 40 kids in each age group, right? By the time we hit middle school, there might be 6, 7 middle schoolers in groups, and, like, 50 elementary kids. But middle school hit, now the classes became smaller, or they stopped, or they weren't as often because they didn't have that many kids. So instead of meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they just met on Wednesday. Okay. So now that circle of interaction, of possible exposures to collaborations and teamwork and social interactions, that reduces greatly. We're going to be real. We're going to talk about this. And we're not even talking about the people who live in more remote areas where they didn't really have that to begin with. Middle school is going to be a shock for you if you're a first-time homeschooler at that age level, because activities where your kids at this point in time, they need to be around a lot of kids, that's when everything gets smaller or it disappears. Okay. Now, and then once you hit 8th grade, like my 8th grader, there might be 3 or 4 8th graders. And then when you hit high school, 1, usually my kid, maybe 2. Okay. So those are some things to think about. So if you're thinking you're going to homeschool through middle school, but go to public school for high school, you're going to have a different approach than those who plan on homeschooling all the way to 12th grade. So you really have 2 major camps, and then everything's broken down from there. If you are like, we homeschooling until 12th grade, you can make some adjustments. But if you're homeschooling just for those 3 years, and then you're going to turn your child loose in high school, maybe just for 9th grade to see how they like it. And then if they do, they can stay. If not, they can come back to homeschool. You still have to kind of walk a slightly different path, because now you're walking back into the lion's den and you got to play by their rules. So let me talk to you first. All right. So whatever curriculum you're into, stick with it. If it's working for you, stick with it. But depending on what you think your child might want to do, like if they have early proclivities for certain kinds of subjects, and they think they might want to go in field with that subject, maybe the medical field or the tech field or the arts or something like that, where you can kind of just see, oh, I can see them going there. If it's obvious, right? Kids, adults change their minds about what they want to do all the time, but you need something to work with. Your time, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, do your academics. But if you see there's something your child is interested in, throw them into it right now. And I mean it, right now. You are not guaranteed to have anything next semester or next year. That's another thing about middle school and high school. You can have the best, say, science class for middle schoolers, at a co-op, or, just at a learning center, wherever you go out your house to have those classes. And it's amazing. It's been around for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. This, I'm talking from experience, because we lost 2 major classes. We went from like maybe 13 different activities a week to like 4 in one semester. The pandemic came, wiped out a lot of things. No one expected that. Anything can happen right now. The economy is really shaky. We got elections coming up next year. What your child could possibly do this semester, say their first semester of middle school, get them in it. You are not guaranteed to have that next semester, especially with middle school and high school, because vendors and companies that target homeschoolers, when they see the drop off for middle school and definitely for high school, they'll cut those classes. Or if they do offer it, what happened in one of our cases, they used to have like maybe 60, 70 kids. Jack, is that you? Okay. They might have 60, 70 kids, elementary, middle, high school, and then it drops so much. And the kids will be like that section over here, that section over here, that section over there. Because the drop off is so much, they'll combine all the kids together. And you're like, no, I don't think I need high schoolers with third graders. But because they can't afford to have all this extra space or extra teachers, 5 teachers, because you had 75 kids. Now you got 20 kids. You don't need 5 teachers. So now you got to cut teachers because you have less students. So let me tell you, it can change in a dime. So whatever you can get your kid in immediately when they enter 6th grade, get them in now. You're not guaranteed to have that. That's fine for extracurriculars, but what if it's an academic class? A lot of schools, learning centers, co-ops, they want a minimum of students, 5, 3, whatever that number is. So you might have a pre-algebra class that is amazing, great teacher. And then in the spring, she might not be able to afford to offer the class. It's one thing if, maybe she goes on maternity leave or she moves away, but she might not be able to afford to offer the class because she takes a loss on it. And you'll be stuck trying to clamor around to find another teacher or to find some curriculum because you have to teach it yourself, or you have to try to go on some places like OutSchool and hope that, oh, this is the middle of the year, I got to try to get my kid in and the spots are filled up, or maybe they're further along in this than sorry guys. So number 1, anything that you are remotely interested in for your kids, get them in now, especially if it's online classes. Do it now, because even though it's less kids, it's going to be less opportunities available. Okay. I cannot stress that enough. Next thing, as your children are transitioning from 6th grade to 7th grade, 6th grade to 7th grade is like transitioning from 3rd grade to 4th grade. You know how they say 3rd grade is the most pivotal grade in elementary school, because you're going from learning to read and write to writing to learn. All right. So now you have to, all the skills you learn preschool to, okay, this one gnat is killing me. All the skills you learn from kindergarten to 3rd grade, now you're going to start applying that 4th grade and up. That's why you have a lot of kids, they start hitting those potholes and that foundation that if it's shaky, now you start to see the shakiness, the gaps as they move up. Okay. Same thing with middle school, 6th grade to 7th grade. In the classical world, the classical approach of homeschooling, which I follow the first couple of years, now I'm eclectic, but there are 3 stages of learning. Elementary is the grammar stage, and not meaning like grammar school, but grammar. And I'll talk about what different homeschooling philosophies, what they mean another time. Middle school is called logic. So the grammar stage is when your kids are sponges. That's when they tell you to teach your children foreign languages, because they just sop it all up like a sponge. It's just a vessel, and you're just pouring everything into that vessel, that child. And then when your children hit the logic stage, they take all that information, all the this happened this, and this is how we do this. And so they take all that basic information. Now they process it and they start to ask questions. So instead of saying, the French Revolution uh, took place in France in this date, and this was the reason why. Okay. Now, logic stage says, why was there a French Revolution? What was going on to make them rebel or revolt? Okay. So the logic stage is now your child is starting to question the information they've been filling up, right? And then high school is the rhetoric stage where you've gotten the information, you question it, now you formulate it, synthesize it, and then you present your case or your critical thinking skills about that information that you took in and processed. So at the logic stage, this is where you want to give them the world with anything that can be critical thinking, because they're at that stage where they're going to be asking why did this happen, how did this happen, not just the who, what, when, where. It's mostly why and how. And when I do a video where I talk about the whole to parts versus the parts to whole approach to teaching, you'll understand perfectly why during this stage, 6th, 7th, and 8th, you don't even have to have your kids do a lot of curriculum stuff. A lot of it is discussions, because they're asking all kinds of questions. They want to know. They still have common sense. So the things that we as adults forget, common sense wise, kids still have. So they can question and reason because they haven't been brainwashed yet with everything from you, your family, your friends, your neighborhood, your community. They still have some sense of just raw innocence. Okay. Now, what have I done? Now, this is what I do. In my house in 6th grade, we are a very literature-rich family. I have a set reading list for every grade level, and I'm very intentional with what my children read. Now, why am I starting with reading? Why not math? Why not writing? Yes, you need to know how to calculate a tip, the percentages on a mortgage or for a car. The reading with the critical thinking skills is the one skill will take you to your last days on this planet. Okay. It covers everything. You can know how to do a 6-year rate on a 30-year mortgage. Okay. A 6.5% rate on a 30-year mortgage, right? But your critical thinking is going to be like, is this the right time to be doing a 6% rate on a mortgage when it was 2% 5 months ago, and a year ago it was like 1%? What's going on in the world? Do I need to be concerned? See, that's the critical thinking skills. Okay. That's the rhetoric stage. So when you're reading and you're constantly talking and having them think, they're churning, I've talked about processing memory and working memory. The more you keep doing that, the more your children, as they're bombarded with all this information, the more they can take it like alley oops, take, dunk, take, dunk. They can process it, spit it back out, and not fall for all the okie dokes out there. Okay. So the first month or so, we don't do no kind of writing in our homeschool. Now that's just me. Okay. Now, why am I intentional about this? Okay. So with the book list, I know because the children are very inquisitive at this stage. I need to give them rich literature that high fives them, that will complement this thinking process right now. I always start, I should have brought my old homeschool planners, but I basically know most of the book list by heart. I always start with Anna. Jack, are you out there? I was going to get him to tell me, recite the book list. Animal Farm. Okay. I start with dystopian literature. Why do I start with dystopian literature? I wholeheartedly and fully believe that learning at its best, this is just me, but learning at its best is done when you make a real world connection between you and the world. When that connection is made and it's solid and it makes sense, you have instant buy-in with your child because they understand, not just getting information. Now they understand why they have to pay this tax, why they don't have to pay this tax, why they need to study for this subject. I mean, they start to understand the whys of things, so it's easier for them to sit their behinds down and do the work. So when I start with dystopian literature is us right now in this world. It is a direct reflection. And with these books, I'll give you like 3 of them. With these books, you can directly tie into what's going on in the world right now. And then your kids get excited because they start making those connections. And then they start hearing the terminology that they're hearing now. It's almost like music. Now, I'm a woman of a particular age, I'm very seasoned. Now, I know when I was growing up, the music from the 80s, the 70s, and the 80s, a lot of it was original. A lot of it was derivative from the 60s and the 50s. Covers, right? Samples is real bad now. When the kids today hear the music, they think it's new. It was just created, not knowing it was samples and derivatives from music going back to like forever. It's the same thing with when they're reading these books. They'll start to hear these terms, big brother, double speak, and all of that. But they think, oh, wait a minute, I hear this right now. And then they realize, oh, this is not new. It's been around. And I like to say history doesn't repeat itself, but it really does rhyme. It damn sure rhymes. So now they can really make that connection. So I always start with Animal Farm. As if, oh, I should have brought the book. If y'all wait, I'll go grab the book. I have like the 50th or 75th the 50th anniversary edition. It's illustrated. Oh my gosh. Oh, hold on. I did a video on Animal Farm, I think. I might have to do another one. I love graphic novels of classics. Like To Kill a Mockingbird has a graphic novel out. The Alchemist has a graphic novel out. Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451. I don't think Catch 22 does. But anyway, so I start with Animal Farm. Why? Because it has a lot of literary elements involved. This is another thing with middle school. Because you have more subjects to teach, if you're doing like typical things like, reading, writing, math, science, social sciences, maybe getting some fallacies in there. Those of you who want your child to go to a competitive college, people want to stress, oh, you have to take these certain kind of math classes, AP classes, honors classes. Take a doggone fallacy class, okay? Especially if you think your kid might even inkly want to go to law school or go somewhere where they have to be verbal maestros, logical, they want to go to politics, just whatever. Take a fallacy class or get some books on fallacy. I've done a video, I think 2 videos on fallacies, okay? Okay, so I'm all over the place, and I made some notes. Reading, writing or composition, math, history, social sciences, arts. Of course, you want to introduce that to your children, but the subjects that kind of get neglected that are crucial at the middle school level is your poetry. I'm gonna tell you why. Definitely your fallacies, your logical fallacies, and financial literacy. They are key. Now, what does poetry come in? I'm not that strong with poetry, but I find that poetry is very accessible and there's something for everyone and it's everywhere. And with the mental state, I mean, this is May, this is Mental Awareness Month. Poetry is like songs. When we were growing up, there was always a song for whatever situation you were going through. And we associated our situation with the song. So you broke up with your first girlfriend and you remember the song that was playing. Sweet Dreams by Annie Lennox. Or you had your first kiss. Oh, Duran Duran, The Reflex was playing. You make associations. People can do that with poetry where they read it and they make this association with, oh, I remember when I lost somebody in my life or when this wonderful thing happened to me. So because the state of the music is so bad, I think poetry is music and print. So I think that's a very viable option to have. A lot of people don't think about. And you have a lot of kids of this generation who do poetry. And I think being able to introduce them, find some of the top poetry slammers or whatever for your kids' age group, let them watch that. I think that is phenomenal. That could be their copy work. They can do narratives about it. They can do free writing about that. There is a lot you can milk with that with the middle school. I'm not even talking about doing, no pre-algebra, no 5, 6, 7 paragraph essays. No, that's always going to be there. Right now, we're building that foundation. Because let me tell you, I ain't trying to blow my horn. I can take anybody in this world and they can barely write A, B, C, and D. By the end of the school year, I'll have them writing the most beautiful prose. It's not that hard if you truly believe in the child and you have a consistent routine that you stay with and you make adjustments when needed, okay? And you make it exciting for them. You make them want it. You got a recipe for success. They might not be at their very best, but they'll be a greater version of themselves. And then they'll want to do more and better. And then you're done because now they're the cows out the barn. They'll keep going. So back to the books. So I always start with reading. So Animal Farm, because you can immediately see what's going on in today's world, make that real world connection. And half the words in Eric Blair's, well, that's his real name, but George Orwell, his real name was Eric Blair. Half the words, the vocabulary in there is stuff we took from the book and that we use today, right? Newspeak, doublespeak, Big Brother. I'm sorry, I'm on 1984. Oh yeah, that was the other one. Oh, and 1984 has a graphic novel. I'm all over the place. But Animal Farm, Snowball and Napoleon, the pigs, the horse, all of that. Your kids can see how things are in Animal Farm versus how things are in our society. So they can easily make those connections. Plus, you have movies, you have lots of movies, or animation shows. There's so much information out there on YouTube that's free that you can put together a curriculum next to nothing and really just milk it. So my top list, I start with dystopian literature. My kids happen to like military history. We go into military history because I have sons. There's always a war going on. I need them to think critically about institutions, military institutions, government institutions, agriculture, pharmaceutical institutions, okay, educational institutions. Okay, so Animal Farm, George Orwell. 1984, George Orwell. Lord of the Flies, William Golding. This is my top list for my book list for 6th grade. Yeah, it sounds heavy. We read a lot, so we can get through a book in like 6 to 7 weeks, okay? Your mileage may vary. If you can do 3, if you just do 1, you're already ahead. But I'm going to tell you, you can milk it and you can get just having that discuss. Do y'all remember? Okay, I have a video on my favorite teacher-inspired movies. It had to be about teachers, and I'm not going to give it away. But the one thing I made note of in that video was in the movies where the kids were at the best of the best boarding schools in the world or in America, you didn't see a single chart, an anchor chart, a banner. There was nothing on the walls in the classroom. They didn't have a stack full of file folders and all the trappings that you see in a typical American classroom. There was none of that. It was blank walls, a chalkboard, and whatever books the teacher brought in and whatever books the students brought in. Maybe one notebook or journal looking thing and some pens and pencils. That was it. And you're like, well, how did the teacher test? How did the teacher assess what they were learning, what they were remembering? Because the teacher talked to them. When you sit down and you start, okay, I gotta do a video on reading comprehension. You don't need all these outputs, all these deliverables, reading comprehension. Back in the day, comprehension video. Back in the day when education was off the charts, take the 1900s, the early 1900s. Everybody wrote like Emily Prose. Not Emily Prose. I was thinking Emily Post from the Etiquette. Everyone wrote like an author. I mean, even your poor people, their writing, the penmanship was off the charts. But if you ever just Google letters from the 1900s and just from poor people or from farmers or from factory workers, just read how they wrote. Oh my God. It would be something that a professor would write or a Nobel laureate in literature would write. And these were people with basic means because just the level was there because they were just always exposed to good stuff. So where was I going with this? Okay, so the books. So the classroom had nothing in it. It was just discussions. And you're like, well, how does the teacher know what they're learning and how are they retaining that? Because they're always going back and forth. So when you're challenging someone and they're having to think, that thinking process is part of the learning. This is one thing they taught you. My oldest son, he started doing math competitions in second grade. He was very, very bright. And the one thing I noticed was that you had, how can I say this? You had children who were like really naturally gifted, like just off the charts. Like you can drop something like a bag of crayons and maybe there's a couple hundred in there. They can look at it in 3 seconds and tell you exactly how many's there. I mean, like off that chart. And then you have those who were really smart, but just like in certain things. And it was a burden for them. And then their parents just kept, putting them in all kinds of things like that just to kind of tap into that. But all of these kids, when they're around each other, they're pretty average with themselves. Okay, I'm forgetting what my point was with this. All right, does anyone know where I was going with this? Let me read some comments. Remind me, I was talking about math, my son doing math competitions. All right, let me do some comments and I'll come back to that because I have like so many thoughts in my head. All right, we have Antoinette. Hey, Antoinette. Jordan Budgets. Hi from Mississippi. So happy to have found your channel as a newish homeschool mom. I love all your wisdom. Oh, thank you, Jordan from M.I. Humpback, I. M.I. Mississippi. Wait, what is it? M.I. Mississippi, I. Mississippi, I. Humpback, I. Whatever my second grade Miss Smith teacher taught us how to spell Mississippi and connect I-cut. So anyway, welcome Mississippi. Hello Mari, my other Cali girl. Raspberry, this talk is so good. I've got 2 pages worth of notes. Y'all, Raspberry, I gotta give you a swirl of the bell, a bell swirl. That's a win because you were doing something that a lot of people don't do. That is good. I love to see people take notes. I love that. The Handmaid's Tale. Oh, Antoinette Clark. Yes, that is a good. As a matter of, I think my kids saw that without me, or with my husband. But yes, that's a good book. What's your 7th grade middle school reading list? Okay, so Malibu for 7th grade. Okay, hold on. I'm almost caught up with the questions. My children don't seem to gravitate to poetry, like questions where it asks, what does the author mean by? Okay, so answer those 2 questions. A lot of times kids don't like poetry because they're not surrounded by it. It's not cool, but you know how to make it cool? Okay, so there is I think it's called Poetry Slam. I want to say it's Poetry Slam, but it's just Google poetry. Let me do it. Poetry Slam and go on Google. And it's like young adults, and they make it interesting. They put things in context that's related to their own life. But let's see, what did I say? Poetry slams. Okay, poetry slams. Poetry slams. It's that you want to introduce it to them in a seductive way. Poetry slam. Poetry slam. Okay. Ooh, there's one in LA right now. Okay, so a poetry slam is a competitive art event in which poets perform spoken word poetry before a live audience and a panel of judges. They're really fun. I mean, it is really big. So I'm trying to think of like the biggest one. Okay. Now it's called like slam poetry, but remember, you want to seduce them into it, and then you can bring in, the Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou's, the Walt Whitman. Like I just ordered Leaves of Grass, maybe 2 weeks ago because we're really starting to get into like, is it considered Victorian time period, the early 1900s? I forget the cutoff, but you have like the Bronte sisters. You have I'm forgetting Walt Whitman. Oh, what's the one who went out? Not Leaves of Grass. I took the road less traveled. I forgot everybody now. Hold on, because now it's bothering me. How do I call my son and tell him to bring my poetry books? But anyway, so do poetry slam, and that's a really gentle way to introduce them to poetry before it gets all, oh, this doesn't make sense, it doesn't rhyme, all of that. Make it fun first. Robert Frost, I can think Emily Dickinson, Frost, Cummings, and there's one more. Sylvia Plath, T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound. Yeah, so you have a lot. You got some really good quality stuff. But get them into like poetry slams, or find your favorite songs. A lot of them started off as poetry. I just added music to it. But for some of the songs that are very classic, that like I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, it's a poem first. Then add some music to it. Poetry doesn't look the way we think it should look. So, I mean, this poetry, when you see, a beautiful rose that's red and it's opening in the morning time, the dew on it, that's poetry right there. That Southern fried chicken with buttermilk I made last night that I haven't made in like 15 years, 10 years, that was poetry right there. When your child is like really struggling to get through a math program and they don't give up and they get it and then it clicks, that's poetry right there. So remember how I told you winds look different? We are so conditioned to think how things should be. Who was it? Antoinette taking notes? That's a win. But a lot of people wouldn't think of that as a win, but it's a win. So, hey baby, what do you need? Huh? My son just got his braces put on. My youngest one got his braces put on today. Did you listen to Catch 22? Mo, Jack's on 23. You need to catch up. So, okay, so quick list. Okay, so Antoinette, try poetry slams, okay? And then you can gravitate to the more formal forms of poetry. But deconstruct what poetry looks like, okay? Malibu says, what's your reading list for middle school? Okay, so for middle school, now remember, 6th grade, we're dystopian literature, because it's always going to be dystopian world, y'all. So as soon as my kids are exposed to it, they can start spotting that, okay? 7th grade, I bring in more of a historical, from our viewpoint, historical points of view. You might want to do that for your household. Maybe you're Pacific Islander, or you're Native American, or Indigenous, or Niji, or you're South Asian, or you're Nigerian. Wherever you come on the planet, I would encourage you to try your best to find quality literature that focuses on your culture. Okay. Now for us, I like to take a big world outlook. I do two things really heavy on history. I run 2 parallels in middle school. I do a little bit in elementary, So I always do like a typical spine of history, and then I do like from like our perspective as an indigenous person to this land. In middle school, I up it a notch. And so I'll start to move from just here to around the world. Like seventh grade for my oldest child, who is now a sophomore, we study black kings, for lack of a better word, black kings and queens of Europe, because they existed. There was a black bourgeoisie in Europe, also in Asia. I also start looking at how the negritude movement, how that came to be in Africa and in Europe. So I start to I build the foundations in elementary, and then in middle school, because now they're starting to ask why, and they want to make those connections. So they already have their foundation here at home. Now we're going to make those connections around the world, and they'll start to see, oh, it's not just us. This happened to them, or they do this too. So now I want those real life connections. One book I start with is like, how I do Animal Farm in 6th grade. In 7th grade, I do Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I don't know if I'm always saying his name right, but I think it's Chinua Achebe. Those of you who are Nigerian, you can correct me. But I start with that because that is a phenomenal book. And it's a trilogy, actually. And it encapsulates so much. It answers a lot of questions, because what happens in that book directly applies to today. So you see how I like to choose things that have that real world connection? That's timeless. Okay. So for middle school, when you're trying to choose materials to teach, look for things that are timeless, that have real world connections, because while they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you can keep going back and forth with them so they can start getting that muscle memory and remembering. And now they remember, now they can apply it. So when they're out in the community without you around, they remember and they can act on that because they've been constantly exposed to it. So 7th grade, I start with all Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe. Achebe is Achba, and Chinua is Chinua, and then Achebe, Ache, Achebe, Ba. Things Fall Apart. You can't go wrong. Okay, so I look at that, and then I go into more of history from my point of view. So I have yeah, we go deep here, y'all. And actually, I just got this the other day. Well, not too long ago, because we have been going deep into the indigenous people here in America. What some people call Nijis, a lot of different names, but Turtle Island, we've been really big into that. Okay. Now, where am I going with that? Depending on what you are, this is the perfect time to give your child some foundation, or if they have been exposed to their history, give them context. Give them context. That's important. And this is where it's important to find credible resources to do that. Okay. Let me go back to my notes, because I wrote a lot of stuff down. All right. If you have more than one child and they're kind of close in age, now you're really dealing with sibling conflict. Okay. Sibling rivalry. So we're kind of going back to that emotional behavior kind of stuff, but that's really going to trip you up in your homeschool. So it's not like when you have the little ones when they're pulling on your pants leg, or they want some goldfish and you're trying to teach or do this. Now it's your kids going at each other. Not them going after you, they're going after each other. So now you have to kind of resolve that kind of conflict. And I'll show you a good book that was very helpful. I got this when my oldest son was in preschool. They had a in preschool how they'll have the little the parent education classes. Well, our headmaster, she phenomenal woman. She always had us read this, and we always had to talk about it. It was like a book club. And they're like so many spinoffs by the same author. They have like teens without rivalry, things like that. But as your kids are in middle school, it's going to get crazy in your house. There's going to be conflict. And when there's conflict, it's not that much academic stuff going on. Or if it is, it's being done poorly. Okay. So this is something that will really help. Maybe take a spin through this during the summertime to kind of prepare yourself. Because, take a swig. Any questions so far? Because while your kids are going through all this emotional stuff, baby, we haven't even begun with executive functioning skills. And that's not just for people with social disabilities. It's for the whole world. The whole world as a whole has poor executive functioning skills, EF skills. What are EF skills? That's time management, planning, organizational skills, basic stuff. Remember, did you know that EF skills, one of them is memory? Did y'all know that? Like, could you remember 5 of your friends' phone numbers, house phone numbers, just off the top of your head? Because when I was growing up, my grandmother kept a phone book, like so, like I do right now. Phone book. But she knew every single number in that phone book. We don't know numbers anymore. That was working memory, being able to hold all those numbers and associate it with somebody or a story or something. We don't do that. That's an executive functioning skill, which is atrophy because we have smartphones that make us really dumb. So you're going to have to try harder to work with their time management. Okay, maybe they have more subjects that they're studying, or maybe they're studying less subjects, but for longer periods of time. That's a change. So how are you going to manage that? How are they going to manage that? And how much are you going to help them versus giving them independence to work on that? Maybe, okay, say they're teaching 5 subjects. You're teaching 5 subjects. And for math, they're good on their own, actually. For writing, they need your help a lot. For reading, it's like 50-50. Like, yeah, most times she gets it, sometimes not, but nothing concerning. The other 2, it's like neutral, like Switzerland. So your days will be different because you got subjects where you can say, all right, go ahead, knock this out. Give me about 4 pages, or get to, finish this topic or this unit. Bring it to me and we'll go over it together. And then the others, you're going to have to spend a lot of time working on them. They can't be independent. Either they don't have the attention span because they hate that subject, or they have an attitude, or they just can't grasp it. So it's always going to be at least one subject where there's some kind of hiccup where you might just have to just handhold, and then other subjects where they can really start to get that independence. I say start with whatever they're strongest in or whatever they like the most. Give them independence with that. What does that look like? Well, depending on the subject and depending on how competent they are with it, I say it's like, when you're babysitting or you're driving the car, you're learning how to drive the car, and your parents like say, okay, you can go to the corner store around the corner and come straight back. Or you can go to Meemaw's house and come back, right? Is same thing with giving them responsibilities. Give them something small that they can do, right? You want to under promise so they can over deliver. Okay, so you're not asking a lot and you're hoping they can deliver and do what you're asking them to do. So you say for math, maybe they're doing irrational numbers. Well, what would they be doing in 6th grade? That's kind of up in the air. Say ratios, and you're like, okay, do page 54, 57, or maybe they like to work with their hands. Okay, take those squares. What are those squares? The bossy tiles. Take those and show me 3 equations or something. Or if you're an unschooler, you can say, figure out how much butter I need to buy to make 2-pound cakes for grandma. I don't know. However you do math. but let them do it on their own and tell them, give them, it's like a 2-step direction. Present, tell them what you want them to do. Do page 54, 55. When you're done, check it, bring it back to me. That's 3 steps. Do it, check it, bring it back to me. Okay. They might do it, but they don't bring it back to you. That was my son just yesterday with his writing. I was like, you're supposed to print it and then bring it to me so I can check it. He forgot to do it. He printed it, but it stayed on the printer. So, but that's what we're talking about. We got to start training them over and over and over again, get them into a pattern or routine. So the first time they do it, thank goodness they do it, they don't bring it back to you. The third time they do it and they bring it back to you. And then, no, they do it. What I say? Do it. They check it. They put it in their basket. They put it in their notebook. They don't even give it to you. They did 2 steps out of the 3. They're making progress. The 8th time, it's like the broccoli. You got to give your child exposure to like vegetables 200 times before they take the first bite. By the 10th time, they did it. They checked it, brought it to you. 5 hours later, but they brought it to you. So that's a win. But that's them slowly exercising those executive functioning skills, the organizational skills, the planning skills. They're planning, okay, when I finish doing these math problems, I'm pretty tired and it's close to my break time. So I'll finish this, go grab a snack, come back and check it with my snack, then take it to mom. After that, I can get ready for my online class. Or, you know what I'm saying? You want to put them in those positions so they can start thinking about planning in their head. Okay, well, I have PE at this time, or, this is when I'm tired, or this is when, whatever it is that's going on in their lives. They'll start to figure out what they want to do and when they want to do that. So back off, and let them figure it out. It's going to look messy and ugly, and they ain't got no idea what they're doing. And that's exactly how it should be. Messy. Let them take that clay and mold it themselves. Don't be a mom where you're like, here, just let me do it. I'm gonna be faster and it's gonna look good. You know how you always tell your kids to do something, but then 2 seconds in, you take over because you want it done a certain way, or you want it done faster so you can do this. Don't do that. Let them do their thing. Okay. Now let's talk about, I want to talk about money, because this is the perfect time where you can get the financial ball rolling with your child. And that's actually, to me, after reading skills, financial skills is the second most important thing you can teach your child. I'm just sorry. That's it. If you can't manage your money, what's the saying? A smart man knows how to make money. No, an average man knows how to make money. A smart man knows how to keep money. A wise man knows how to grow money. It's something like that, something along those lines. Some of you guys know, I've talked about it in videos. On Fridays, we have Financial Fridays, and we're reading The Richest Man in Babylon. We were at the bank just last Friday, actually, or was it Thursday? Because I had to make a big withdrawal, and they, had the money machine. It was shh. And so, the kids were watching that, and I was okay. One of my sons, he needed some money. I'm like, okay, what kind of money do you want back? He said, what do you mean, Mom? You want 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s? What do you want? Oh, I don't know. Oh, 50s look cool. I said, oh my God, no. I did not teach you nothing. I said, okay, you're only going to get 3 50s then. You're going to have 3 50s. And so when you want to go up to the store and grab some candy, or you want to buy a gift card for your friend, it's so pretty, you're not going to want to break it, which is good because you wouldn't want to spend it, but you're going to break it. So I'm like, okay, what do you normally buy, baby? You like to go to the dollar store and buy little things to make my kids are always building stuff. They like to buy string and twine and all kind of junk from the craft stuff from the dollar store. So I'm like, do you want to give the cashier a $20 bill, a 10, 5, or 1? And then he thought about it. Oh, well, I usually like to buy about 3 or 4 things. So if I just give them a couple of dollars, okay, so I said you probably need more ones than fives, tens, and 20s. Just get them thinking about what they're gonna do, okay? Just so they have a benchmark to start making comparisons. Oh, you know what? I started going to the movies with my friends, so I don't want to have like a whole bunch of ones on me. So maybe you should bump it up to like a 10. That way I can get change back. They can practice making sure they get correct change back. So there's little things like that. So not too early to start now. Maybe getting them a teen debit card. Where you can track their spending, you can go over their spending, you can talk about how to spend, how to save, how to invest, things like that. It might also be a good time to go talk about stocks, maybe crypto, whatever. But just any kind of money management discussion is really, really, really good, especially just the basics of why am I buying this? Why am I buying this? Do I need this? Is this a need or a want? I've done a video on, I've done, I think 2 videos on financial books for kids. So go into my archives. It's on there. All right. Someone asked me about, are there internships or things that, or programs middle schoolers can do to kind of get a jump start on their college application process, to make them look good? Yes, there are. My son, excuse me, did something. 2 of my sons, they did 2 programs. One, he did, it was a STEM program where they have to build, back then there was like underwater submersibles or something like that. I don't know, something tech. It was a summer long internship. Depending on where you live, if you have a state university, I know this is with state universities. I'm sure it's probably with private universities, definitely with some big state universities that are research universities. You can always find a program where it's connected to that department. So maybe the Department of Engineering or the Department of Humanities. Just call the dean's office, the front office, and ask. Half the battle is just finding the information. How do you find the information? You pick up the damn phone or you send an email. You even write a letter. You'd be amazed, especially with the older people who are in these teaching positions. If they got a handwritten letter, you might as well have just taken a Raspberry Pi and created some kind of STEM project that like unlocked all the teacher staff doors with their swipe cards. That basic things like that go a long way. So see what your kid is interested in. If you don't know and your kid don't know what they're interested in, that's good. Pick something and just go. And if they don't like it, you can cross that out, go to the next thing. Your child likes to write. Call the English department, the journalism department, any department that is any way, shape, form, remotely related to writing. Call them up. I have a child in middle school, and I'm just wondering, do you have any programs that can, help kids be exposed to, careers or just to be exposed to the profession? Oh yeah, you know what? Well, Professor so-and-so does this thing in the spring. Just call and ask. You will be surprised. Even if you live in a small area, a small town, or a remote area, see if they have something virtual or something your child can just check in with the mentor. They work on their own, but they have some guidance. Now, this is what my middle son is doing right now for animation. We live outside of Japan, like the largest animation hub, and they're like everywhere, and you don't have to be with a big school. A lot of things are in unexpected places that you wouldn't think they would have a program because they don't know how to market. They don't have the time to market stuff. So it's usually the people who work there and the people they know, and they tell their kids and friends, and that's how it's word of mouth. So you just have to pick up the phone, look for all the community colleges, the junior colleges in your area, the trade schools in your area, the certification schools, because right now you just want to get the information. and see. Because right now your kid might not know what he wants to do or what she wants to do. So just start with something that it seems interesting. Okay. Also, if you're looking to shore up an application for college right now, you can do, I know in California, you can start taking college classes like right now. You can do in California, you can take college classes as early as 7th grade. I think some kids might do it younger, but 7th grade, you won't get that much pushback. It's very common here. A lot of the junior colleges, they're so used to homeschoolers on campus or online. So start there, see what your child's interest is, and then try that for a year. It might change, it might enhance. You can build on that. So also, as remember, I was saying how activities and things get smaller as kids get older. You might want to start thinking about college. If you don't want your kid in a college setting with like adults, then do it online. You don't have to be in colleges that are in your state. Arizona State has a phenomenal program. I remember it came out when I knew about it, like maybe 6 years ago. It was free. Then it was $25 for the semester or for the program. Now I think it's like 200, 100 or something like that. Might even be $400. I don't know. But you get college credit. If your child doesn't do well, you don't have to claim it. So you don't have to report it. So it doesn't go on their transcript. Arizona State University. I think it's called Arizona Prep or Arizona Digital. The name was different back in the day, but it's like Arizona. If you just do Arizona Digital, put in homeschool, but it's not just for homeschoolers. You'll get to the information. Maybe I should do a video on that. So right now, Arizona Prep. So, and I feel like I'm all over the place because there's so much information, because we want to talk about the main thing for me is working on their executive functioning skills. The academics are going to come. This will also be a good time to look and see if they have any gaps in their learning. Are they still shaky with grammar? Meaning like the basics, like certain glaring mistakes that they're always constantly making, like THERE versus THEIR, for example. Things that are easy fixes to make, okay, that make an impression. Do they still struggle with certain multiplication facts? Even to this day, I struggle with my 8s for multiplication. I always have to think 2 seconds longer with 8 times something, like 8 times 6 and 8 times 7. Those two always get me. I still have to think about it. Like when I'm on OutSchool or something and they're doing that little CAPTCHA stuff where you have to put in something to prove you're not a robot. Sometimes they have the multiplication. I'm like, oh, don't give me an 8. Sure enough, 8 times 6. But if I say 6 times 8 is 48, I know it. But if I say 8 times 6, for some reason, the 8 gets in the way and I have to think about it. So I have to, I struggle sometimes. So you want to look for those gaps. This will be a good time to give your child an assessment in any format you feel comfortable giving. It can be verbal, it can be written, it can be kinesthetic, where they have to show you something. Do an assessment, especially with math. I want to stress the math because that is what scares kids the most. I find if they have the vocabulary, that's half the battle. Because a lot of times you're doing math, you don't know what they're asking you. So the vocabulary is part of the battle, not really half, but part of the battle. And then you go and you fill in those gaps in a very friendly way. And I'll give you 2 pathways to go. How long have you been on here? 1 hour and 13 minutes. Okay. Hey, Coffee and Cream, you're late, but you're here. That's all that matters. Melissa says, hi from Alabama, the Gulf Coast. Yes, you finally made it live, Melissa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I just broke my big toenail. It's catching on a carpet down here. Oh, that's so annoying. Okay, let me go back. Malibu, 7th grade. Okay, I start with for me the history from my culture, my heritage, right? Because kids are really starting to ask these questions, and then you can go into whatever interest, like real interest that they have, find a book for that. And if they don't have any real interest, I say, well, I personally, I love classics. So I'm going to be giving them anything that it's not controversial, but think of that book called 100 Banned Books. I'm grabbing books from there because they'll probably not be exposed to those books, and the books are always apropos. So I'm talking about books like To Kill a Mockingbird, The Bluest Eye or Beloved, um, the Lord of the Flies was banned, Fahrenheit 451, Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, let's see what else, Moby Dick. Now, those aren't necessarily banned books, but I'm talking about just classics because there's always going to be a reference in life to these classics. I will also get into religion because, at least for my kids, I want them to have awareness of other religious beliefs. So we're going to do some deep dives into philosophy on different religions around the world with respect and understanding. We're also going to do what we call leisure reading. So like, I know my children are fanatics about military history. So like my oldest one, we did a deep dive around Africa. We covered all the wars. They called it, we did the Boer Wars, the Zulu Wars, but there's a special name for all these different wars that were happening in the southern part of Africa. There's somebody's name, something. Oh, I forget, but military history. So whatever your child has an interest in, or if there's a trait or virtue that you want to hone in on, like for me, Sun Tzu is definitely required in 7th grade. They can start to understand it, but you got to be careful on the book that you get. I think I posted this on my IG account. Sun Tzu, I got a 75th anniversary edition. It was red. It was bright red with a little tassel, and it has the work, and then next to it, it has like a translation of it. Like, what does that mean today? Which I really like. And they're like, illustrations, sporadic, but illustrations throughout. And so in 7th grade, my kids get that book for either Christmas or for their birthday. And it's just wonderful. Do they know all of it? No. Have they read all of it? Yes. We've gone through all those precepts, but that's a lifelong book. Though, I mean, they're not going to get half the stuff, but at least 1 or 2 things. Don't ever outshine the master. Move in silence. I'm doing that now. See, you got to model what you want your kids to do. Now, y'all know back last year, I did a book club on atomic habits, right? And I said, you know what? I want to be a writer. I always wanted to be a writer, but I never told anybody. I was always interested in the tangential professions that involved writing, like journalism and teaching about great works of writing or something like that, but just not me doing it, not teaching, but just doing it. And I said, I gotta embrace that, because part of atomic habits is identity habits, meaning the habit that you do has to reinforce your identity. And so I was doing it with herbology because I've been into herbs. But I said, but girl, you really love to write, and you stopped doing that like 15, how old was my oldest son? Almost 17 years ago. And I haven't told this to any of you guys. So what did I do? Where are my manuscripts? I just started writing, just doing it. And my kids started seeing it. And look, I'm on my 3rd all-nighter, my energy drink, which does not give me the jitteries. Like, where's my 5-hour energy? I had to get rid of that thing because that thing would make my heart feel like I'm 75 years old. So my kids started seeing me do that, and they started respecting that. And it empowered me to keep going. So it was like, a loop. So for middle school, It's important that we model the traits and values that we want our children to take and carry forth. They got to see it in action. So, this is a good time to just have discussions with them. Here's one thing that I do, and I don't do it enough, but I'm getting back into that. I used to do it where I would have a date night with each of my children, just to check in with them. Middle school is the perfect time to do that because things they start keeping to themselves. Check in with your babies. If you ain't got to go nowhere fancy, I talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. Take walks around the neighborhood after dinner, make it a routine, but start checking in. You might not get nothing from them for a whole year. Maybe in 8th grade, and you start this in 6th grade, maybe in 8th grade, they start opening up because now they believe you. You just don't know. Just do it for the benefit that you want to do it. You might not want to do it, but then just eventually you might want to do it. Check in with them, okay? Because this time it's very fragile for them. That's why I push the books, because if you find something they like, oh honey, they have lots of opinions. And they want to trip you up and see you make mistakes. Yeah, let them do that. Let them think you old and you out of touch and you ain't cool and all that. Let them do all that. Be the punching bag. Draw it out of them. Draw it out of them. Don't try to be the teacher. You know how they say the sage on the stage? You be the guide on the side. Take the punches, let them rise up. Okay. So for middle school, you see, I'm not stressing the academics. That's going to come. But this other stuff, this is forever, which is what we want to work on. Let me go on. All right. So one thing I noticed when we had a lot of activities to do outside the house was the collaboration. Now, listen, I don't like people. You wouldn't think that, right? Because I feel like I'm personable. I'm a people person. But deep down, I don't like people because I feel like they're just not themselves. And I'm going to get a different person in about 3 months or 6 months. And I don't want to commit to that. But I'll have lots of fun with you. I'm just not going to let you in, right? So, but I've learned the art of collaborating, of working with others. And so they think that I'm this kind of way when I'm really not. And so sometimes there can be this disconnect because people want to take advantage of you just being open and available, which is good because you want your children to have those experiences working in groups, especially when they get into the workforce. They might have to do that. I'm prepping my kids to work for themselves, work from home, or be the boss. So they ain't got to worry about crazy co-workers, narcissistic bosses, none of that. But if you can't do that, or if you need to do something temporarily before you can move out on your own, you got to learn how to be a team player. What does that look like? Those kids have to get out your house, or if they can't, they need to be in an online setting that is interactive and active. My kids are in 2 classes like that on OutSchool. I love OutSchool. When those classes are over, which is the 2nd week in June, I'm going to, and I already wrote it down from last week, I'm going to reveal to you those classes and the teachers, because my kids will be done with that class. They can move on. And then you guys can enroll. These classes are very interactive. For one class, my kid's been in this pod for 2 years. The other one, they started in the fall and they've been in like 3 or 4 of those classes a piece. It's a passionate teacher. And that's what I want. I want someone who is passionate and knowledgeable about something to take the realm. Okay. But getting back to academics, your routine is going to be different. Okay. So minus if you have younger children, if you work from home or if you're a working parent, you have the sibling rivalries, you have these challenges. How do you handle that? You're going to have to I don't want to say take charge, because this is the time where you're giving your kids independence, but it's like this. This is what you're trying to do, right? Remember when your kids were younger and they wanted to wear let me put this is the bad picture. They wanted to wear these crazy clothes, which you didn't really like. So you would lay out 3 outfits that you liked, maybe 2 that you liked, and 1 that you knew your child would like. And then you would present it to your child, giving them choices, making them think that they're independent and they're the boss. But in reality, you didn't already chosen. You made your choice because you're happy with any of those choices. But they don't know that. All they know is, oh, my mom's gonna let me choose what I want, right? That's not outshining the master, because at that time, your kid is the master because you just want her to put them clothes on so you can get out the house and go to your co-op class, the grocery store, the dentist appointment, right? Don't outshine the master. It goes both ways. You just need her to get that outfit on. So you really did put that box around her. 3 outfits. Well, 2 outfits. But she thinks there's nothing here and she's in control. But she ain't. Okay. And that's kind of got to be how you wrangle your kids, because if there really is no boundaries, they're all over the place. And that's an unsettling place to be. Let me tell you, it's really unsettling because everything is new. Body, hormones, interactions. Now they're doing academic work that is, it looks a lot different than it does in elementary school. Less pictures, less scripted looking fonts, less conversational styles, unless you're like me and I do a literature based approach to teaching. But sometimes textbooks or learning materials look dry and boring, which is a turnoff, which adds to your struggle with trying to get your teen to be engaged with the work. Okay, so you see all those little hidden obstacles that are coming your way that you don't even really realize. Okay, this is where you want to get intentional with your curriculum. If you can, and if you haven't done this, or maybe you just started homeschooling, your child's going into middle school, this is the time where you really want to know their learning style. What do I mean? I'm talking about, are they hands-on, kinesthetic, auditory, visual, logical, mathematical? Are they, there's like 8 or 9 of them. It's like multiple intelligences where they learn best. They can learn all kinds of ways, but they learn best when the information is presented in a certain way. Okay. And you tap into that. As a matter of fact, I wrote an ebook on that like 2 years ago. I got to dig it up. It's on my old laptop. Y'all, I'm just trying to get through with this project. Because that will help you not spin the wheels. If your child is audio, then man, you can get through history and reading with audiobooks. You can farm off a lot of stuff to take off your plate and hand to them. So it helps to know their learning style. If your child is a very visual learner, you might not want to give them Forster's pre-algebra or the art of problem solving. No, just no. You might want to give them Life of Fred, or maybe not. Well, maybe Beast Academy, or teaching textbooks, or counting armadillos. Is it armadillo? Armadillos, or crocodiles. I forget the name of it, but it's kind of like a picture-based math. Just something because it appeals to your child visually. The Keys of series. I love that series. It's a math series. Keys of percent, keys of decimals, the keys to fractions. Very visual. My children are visual learners and logical mathematical learners. So it marries both. So it'll make things easier. Can they do anything else? Absolutely. But if you can give them something that gels with them, both your lives will be easier. So you're going to look at their learning style. And I mean, seriously, take a good look at their learning style. Most kids will fall within visual, auditory, hands-on. And then you have those who they really have that ear for something, or they really have to, and you'll know, because that's just something really like from when they're a kid, right? That's something you'll just see. And then you can kind of tailor your approach. Maybe not for all subjects. Maybe for the subjects that they really love, or the subjects that they really struggle with, and they just need that extra motivation. So think about that. Antoinette says a good book for elementary and middle school is the Energy Bus. Now the Energy Bus is a picture book, and I have the hardcover, the cloth book, and this is how it's an executive functioning skills book. Do y'all want me to get it? I'm glad you said that, Antoinette. That is an amazing book. If you guys want me to get Energy Bus, put a 1 in the chat. The Energy Bus talks about how you can start off empty, or you can start off full. Your environment, your people, your thoughts, all of that can drain your energy. You can't go anywhere. Okay. You ain't got no energy. How do you, it's almost like that. You know how they talk about your bucket, how full is your bucket? It's the same concept, but it's geared toward kids. Let me take a drink. Okay. Antoinette says I can go get the book. I'm gonna get the book. I'll be right back. Hold on. Let me give you something to look at while I'm getting the book. Let me see, what can I put up here? I'll put this up here. I don't know if it's gonna stay up. All right, look at this while I'm gone for a second. Okay, let's do goals. I mean, I want to give you something decent to look at. All right, unit study planner. I'm gonna set this here. Y'all look at this. I'm gonna grab the Energy Bus. Oh, you can't really see anything. This. Whatever. You see part of it. Oh, hold on. I picked up something up here. All right, let me just go get it. I'll be back. Around here somewhere. You coming back? Come on. All right, guys. I'm sorry. All the picture books are in the closets of my kids, and it's like hundreds of books. I really need to catalog the books, but I was able to pull these out, but I couldn't get to the very top. But these are good. These are good books as well. They talk about, I'm gonna do a book. Let me do a picture book video. But the Energy Bus is good picture book video on mental health. It's a mental health book, right? It's a mental health book. All right. Any other questions? I just wish I can just build book shelves all around here, and then I can have sections, picture books, Newbery Awards, call to honors and winners, and all that kind of stuff. Instead, I have to go to all my kids' rooms. They have their own bookshelves, and then in their closets, because they have these huge walk-in closets, all the top shelves are books or curriculum. I got curriculum above the laundry room. My room is a doggone mess. I just need to spend maybe one summer just going through that, or I'll take you on a little tour. All right. What were we talking about? So middle school. Uh, did I give y'all the rest of the 7th grade list? I need to look for my old planner. Not old, because that was just from last year for 7th grade. But 7th grade. What else did Jackson read last year? He read Fahrenheit 451. He read Atlas Shrugged. He did Our European Kings and Queens. There's a whole bunch of books on that. Some pretty solid books as well. Trying to think what else. Because we kind of covered the gambit. And see, where I was going with this was and then also war books. Like they're finishing up, well, one is finishing up Catch 22. We started with All Quiet on the Western Front. Wait, that was 8th grade for him. 6th grade for my other one. Yeah, let me look at my thing. I don't even know. But the whole point is you want books that preferably that are classics that have stood the test of time, which is that there's a reason for that. So when you're looking at The Giver or Number the Stars, or even if you wanted to go back lower down to like maybe elementary books like Esperanza Rising, just so you can kind of be exposed to different cultures around the world. Nothing Ever Happens, Mango Street. Just see, number one, you're getting history, you're getting geography, you're getting well-written works, right? And then you're getting it's like a cultural dictionary. Do you know they have a cultural dictionaries? I used to work for a publishing company, and we produced or at least we had it, because sometimes book companies will take imprints, they'll buy like a smaller part and then absorb it. But it's a book of cultural dictionaries. And then there's a book of foreign affairs. A foreign affairs, I think I have it right here, dictionary. These are fun. I mean, listen, because like I said, history doesn't it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. It's not going to be exactly the way it was last time. It's going to be very similar, and it's going to walk and talk like a duck, right? Which is why we do those real world connections. Where is it? Oh, I'm on the wrong section. It might be downstairs in my politics and history shelf. Let's see. It's the Current Affairs Dictionary, but that one is old. But I think they update it every year. They would have to. Oh no, it must be downstairs. Anyway, yeah, I go through a lot of books. So anyway, one day I'll show you my whole book collection, because I got some controversial books over there. All right, any other questions, y'all, before I get out of here? I'm gonna have to do a part 2, because I should do a checklist. I should do a checklist, because I used, for my old heads, I used to keep my blue notebook, because I would write all my notes. Everything was right here. Anyway, I would have my blue notebook. That's how I would take my notes for videos. Oh, it's right here. I couldn't see it because it was under my other books. This is where I would keep all my notes from all the videos that I do. And I need a new one. So I just been printing stuff out, because this one is, I have to start doing this because this is full. So I just been typing up stuff. All right. So what I got here, ask me some questions. Let me just pick maybe 2 or 3 things. I would say, I would ask myself, Niki, what has been your biggest challenge with homeschooling middle school? And that would be trying to not understand my child, but trying to still mold them. I'm gonna be real. The biggest challenge for me with my children transitioning into middle school was stepping back and letting them fail. As a parent, we want to save our kids, and especially as moms. And it was hard for me to like, it's gonna add more work, kid. I just shut up. Just shut up. We talk too much. Just especially if you have boys. They're not trying to hear all that. They heard the first two words and they tuned everything out. Be quiet. Just sit back. You'll scare them. Let them make their mistakes. Okay? Listen, when my son was a freshman in high school, oh, it was killing me, y'all. I saw every pothole he was steering to. Oh my gosh, why is he doing this? He's doing this on purpose. And I wanted to just like cut the brakes to the car or like take the steering wheel and swerve it. Can't do it. You just gotta let them fail and figure things out on their own. Okay. It's just middle school. Okay. If you're trying to get into a performing arts school, a magnet school, things will be a little different for you. You're not going to have that much time to like let them be on their own. You can treat it like an after school. Like I after school my oldest for 2 years before I pulled him out to totally homeschool. So we would do he had like half day kindergarten, so that wasn't really school. You do your school at school, you come home, do whatever homework you need to do, and then you give them work to do, right? Just a little bit, just to keep them engaged and in touch, and to keep, that mind sharp or whatever you're trying to teach them, okay, or expose them to, or you do the work on the weekends. But you pretty much want to be more consistent. So, if it's not something every day for a small amount of time, then it's less days, but for a larger amount of time. So play around with that. Your kids can handle it. Try to find what they're interested in. A lot of times kids don't know what they're interested in because you're too wrapped up, in computers or the phone or surfing, TikTok or something like that. Watch what they're looking at on TikTok or IG. You might see a pattern, okay? And then see, okay, what can we do that's related to this? And then go from there. It's just being Sherlock Holmes sometimes. My son was into animation and just wanting to see how the animation got to the screen like that. Like, what was behind that, Mom? I don't know. Let's figure it out. We took a deep dive, got on Google. What's animation? Best books for kids in animation. Best mentors in animation. Funniest guides in animation. That's what I do. Whenever I'm Googling something that I want my kids to get into, I do the best, the funniest, the stupidest expose. I do those trigger words, the clickbait words to pull my kids in. And then once I got one eyebrow up, the seducing, then you hit them with the 1-2 punch for the other stuff. All right. One thing I did want to talk about. If you are planning on doing dual enrollment with your child or putting them, having them take like a college class, or you want them to go to a competitive high school or performing arts magnet school or college, or you're not even sure, now is the time to do record keeping. I know it's an ugly word. I did it. Well, I've always done it because that's just my nature. But record, I'm doing a video on that one. That becomes key. Why? You forget stuff. Maybe your kid did some volunteer act, but they volunteered, but it wasn't like, clean up the beach or something. It was like something, of note. Or they did it consistently. Maybe it wasn't something big, but it was something that they did consistently. So it wasn't a one-off thing for the weekend. So they showed that the child was invested in that. Okay. You want to keep track of that. If your child's working on a project, like a self-interest project like my son is doing. He's 14 projects into this animation project, which is how he got into this program. But he did this on his own, just on his own. And he was in a position where he met somebody that ran this program and talked to them about it. And he was too young. And even now he's still too young. So he's shadowing. But that was when opportunity and what they say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation meets opportunity, and you have luck. So start it now. If you can't find something for them to do outside the house, find something for them to do inside the house. Make them do something. Take away all distractions, send them to your room, figure something out. You create something. You want to go out to this thing, you want this $50, you want this expensive thing, you want to go to this party, better make me something. What? Figure it out. Let them get used to being uncomfortable and problem solving. There's not a lot of problem solving that goes on in this world. Let me tell you. You want to know why? They talk about tiger moms. I'm a lion mama. Both powerful animals. And I have to be because I have sons and they're going to be expected to provide, and they're going to grow up in a system that is more than likely going to oppress them in some way, shape, or form. And so they have to be bigger and better and smarter. That's just the reality, because I've seen it. I've just seen it. And so I go hard. I've always gone hard. And the one thing that I've noticed is that when you have those expectations, consistently have those expectations, your children will rise to that. But not in no kind of crazy way where your kids all stressed out and the S word. Not any of that. Because if it becomes a lifestyle in your household, it's just expected. So there's no that self-pity stuff going on. And I wanted to go in a different direction, but I kind of forgot what I was saying. But let me hold on. I meant to write down energy bus because I'm going to do a video. Maybe I'll do that in the middle of next week. Energy bus video. Okay. Where was I going with that, y'all? I was talking about not internships. Dang, what was I talking about? Can anybody put in the chat what I was talking about? I totally forgot. I'm gonna spray some perfume to jog my memory. That smells good. So whatever I was talking about, hopefully it will come back to me. But for your child, if they're trying to get into record keeping, thank you, me. Record keeping. So maybe they can make they can do a maker's portfolio. That is just a fancy word for anything that they make. It goes in a portfolio because you're going to forget things. Okay, so write down, like we talk about the wins. You don't think it's a win, but it really is. You might think this is nothing, but it shows a thought process. You don't, when you do okay, I know where I was going with this. Okay, so my oldest son, I pushed him into tech. He's done like Mark Cuban's AI boot camp by imitation. He's done boot camps with Cal Tech Institute, which is a phenomenal school, and in conjunction with JPL. And I had talked to all those suckers who were teachers there, not to call them suckers. And the main complaint they had, because that's part of you talk about reading comprehensions, I do interview questions. I'm like, what's the best? What's the worst? What's the sneakiest? I ask those clickbaity questions. And I'm like, what's your big annoyance with people? You got to talk to them first, get them like to drop their the guard down, right? And his name was Chris, like one of the chief engineers at JPL. Oh, I had to make sure that was not an altercation going out there with a dog, because we have coyotes out here. He said his biggest gripe was that they would get, this is the Jet Propulsion Laboratory up in by Pasadena. Biggest gripe was that they had the smartest, most talented kids in the nation, in the world, walking through their doors, and they couldn't do anything with those kids for the first 6 to 9 months. They're coming out of Stanford, MIT, Caltech, these top tier schools, and Penn, and they just couldn't problem solve, believe it or not. They couldn't work with other people, believe it or not. And when they were left by themselves to figure things out, they drowned. That's one of the reasons why Project Lead the Way, that movement organization, that was really the foundation, the impetus for the foundation, was because they had all these bright people. They didn't know how to communicate with each other. They had no communication skills, no executive functioning skills, seriously. And they couldn't problem solve. Because they were so programmed to just learn and memorize, and they couldn't problem solve basic things without overthinking it, right? Take a C student who is used to getting into trouble and figuring out how to get out of trouble. I'm telling you, this is the conversation I'm having with Chris. He's like, I'll take a C student who has a portfolio of stuff that he built. It doesn't even have to be anything amazing. Like, if he could figure out how to open the garage door without turning on the front light on the porch, and he did something on a Raspberry Pi, I'll take that kid in a heartbeat. I don't care if he went to a D rating school and got a C. That kid can problem solve. I can work with that. They can't really work with those other kids. They have to, how we talk about when you first start homeschooling, if you're in public school, the first couple of months, for every year you homeschool, you take like 1 month to de-school. They have to de-college these kids. I'm not kidding. They have to de-college these kids. So what I'm telling you is, middle school, start kicking the can, start kicking the wheels on the car, seeing what your kid might be interested in, and just start making some phone calls, sending some emails, looking up call trade organizations. Hey, I have a 6th grader, 7th grader, whatever. They're kind of interested in that. Do you have any programs or any mentors or just whatever, just to ask. You don't even know, you don't have to know the question to ask. Just say you need help. Just say, do you know anything that could help a 7th grader or a 12-year-old or 13-year-old who might be interested in that? No, I'm sorry, I don't. Hang up, call back tomorrow. Maybe you'll get a different person. Okay. Don't give up so easily. Keep calling a couple of times. The whole point is to try to start figuring out what your child might like to do or what they might be good at, okay? And then you can nurture that. Imagine if you find out something in middle school and the time you have with them where you can nurture that and grow that and play around with that. Even if your child changes his or her mind about it, they might come back to it in like 10 years. You never know. All right, let me do one more thing and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. Now, this is a personal one. All right, so we talked about the emotional, behavioral being of our little humans, and we talked about giving them more responsibilities, to being independent, right? We talked about some kind of curriculum that could appeal to this stage that they're in, this logic stage between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, where now they're taking in information and now they're questioning that information. They're challenging you. They're challenging the teachers. They're challenging their friends. They're in that challenge mode now. That's where we are developmentally, between like 11, 13, 14, and then we start to not only challenge but then put our spin on it. That's like the rhetoric stage further down the line. So while we're doing all of that, we have to build in the record keeping. Okay, I'm all over the place. Record keeping. So even if you have no idea what you want to do down the line, record keeping becomes important because, like, I think it was Antoinette or Malibu who was asking about what's my 7th grade reading list. Well, I use my teacher planner, but this is my demo copy when I was making videos about it. I don't write in it every day. As a matter of fact, I do a journal. And when I can't find it because it's somewhere around the house, I'll take my like regular journal for like, things around the house. And I'll write. Hold on, make sure no information showing. I'll write stuff that we did in this until I can get it into my planner. But if I don't, I don't. But I always have a list of books that we've read, that we're reading, that's in there. And I have teacher's notes. So if there was something my child struggled with or something my child did really well, I make a note of that. The stuff in between, honestly, at this point, I don't really care. But I do care if you're really excelling in this, I can wrap it up. We can wrap it up earlier. If you're struggling with this, I want to pay more attention to that. And then all the books that we're reading, and then I'll look at, okay, how can I tie this into this? How can I tie this into that? If my children make any kind of comments or things, I'm like, oh, so it is starting to click. I'll make a note of that just because it makes me feel good. And then I can look at it later on and like, oh, how can I duplicate that? So record keeping, that's a form of record keeping. And I highly recommend that, especially if your oldest kid is starting middle school. So then when you have your younger ones come up, you're not reinventing the wheel. So just take something as simple as just a doggone notebook, man. Ain't gotta be fancy. Just take a notebook. Just jot down stuff. You don't even have to do it every day. It's good if you do, like when you're having your coffee or when you're whatever thing that you do habitually every day, tie it into just jotting down what your kid is doing or what you've done or what you plan to do, just anything like that. But just get it down on paper, because next thing you know, high school is right around the corner. You'll forget a lot of stuff because there's a lot of, when high school comes around, you talking about record keeping? It's a lot, baby. It's a lot. So get into the practice right now, just jotting stuff down, because it's not that important. But sometimes it is, because you might forget what they did in science or what curriculum they used in science, and you're at the curriculum fair or the convention. You want to buy the next science curriculum, but you can't remember. You don't even remember what the book looked like, or the books look similar. You're like, did we finish that one? Were we on 1A or 1B? So just jot things down. Any questions? Y'all don't have any questions? Any questions? So is anyone having any successes or struggles with transitioning to middle school? Does anybody have 6th, 7th, or 8th graders now? Let me know. So with my 6th grader, let me see. The main thing with him was he didn't want to do work boxes anymore. He just wanted a little shelf just to put his books and folders. I have the work boxes, like the little Hobby Lobby metal wire shelves, the drawers you pull out. And I have a shelf for each subject. So I don't want that, Mom. Okay, but we're gonna put all this stuff because you got the Legos over here, and then you have to put your food right here. So that was the first thing he says. That's baby stuff. I don't want to do that anymore. So it's still in his room, but it's used for something else. He was starting to assert his independence. He refused to use a pen. Now, my middle son, he wanted to use a pen since 3rd grade. He loved those colored pens, like these Frixion pens. I love these. Man, see, I have the pink and the orange because he takes all the other colors. After 3rd grade, I had him use a pen one time because I couldn't find a pencil that was sharpened. He never went back. The youngest one, pencils forever. But his handwriting is neater when he uses a pen. It's less friction when he writes, although the pen is called friction. But for a pencil, like, I hate to see his handwriting in pencil because it's like so struggle looking. But anyway, just little things like that. You're like, okay, is that a hill I want to die on? No, it's not. What else has come up? So when my son one of my sons, because my kids are very hairy, when he's sitting in class or when he's looking over his lessons and stuff, he's got like a little beard coming out. Oh, my lips are dry. And So his hands are always on his face. And I notice he does this because he's like, he thinks he has a beard. So he's always playing like with that. And he's getting pimples because his hands are dirty, I imagine. So, and then he doesn't like that. And so, it's just like little things like that. So it's like bothering him and then it's bothering me. And, he's in the middle of a lesson. He's like, Mom, do you have that acne stuff? So it's just, I'm like, no, finish reading that page. It's just little things like that you don't even anticipate that just kind of come in and like they're distracting. Let's see. The biggest change I would say was my sons wanted to choose how their day went from beginning to end. Now, usually it would just be, hey, because we overdose on literature and history on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They were like, we want to do it every day. And we want to do current events. I'm like, I ain't got time for all of that. Okay, Mom, well, we know how to navigate on YouTube. So, and then for one of their American history, there is the audiobook that comes with it. Audible will be your best friend. So they're like, we can do it on our own. And then you can just ask us questions. We don't even want you in the room. My kids for American history, they kicked me out. I'm not even in the room. I can't be in a room. I got to knock on the door. I don't have to, but I'm just like going along with it. Now for our current events and our indigenous history, I got to be in the room. But for American history, because they kind of really know it, but it's just more details now, they don't want me in a room. So that was a big change. So, but luckily I've read that curriculum before. I did it with my oldest one. So, and I still have my reading comprehension questions. I always have a list of questions. I just pop off the head. So I can keep I can make sure they're listening to what they're listening to. So that was probably the biggest thing, them kicking me out of the homeschool for certain subjects. And then see, a big surprise. Well, that kind of surprised me. What else? Y'all have any questions? Oh, frictions are the best pens. I bought them for my oldest to try and get him away from pencils. Yes, I love them. So my two oldest sons, they love them. My youngest son, y'all. And then, because he'll come in here, because I'll check his work in here. So I must have like 200 of these. And they're not cheap. Y'all know that. But he'll always go with these with no eraser. And he chews on it. It's so annoying. I'm like, dude, why you got that broken down Gremlin Chevy Bug and you can have a nice Honda Accord with eraser and no teeth marks? Nope. So look, stuff not sharpened or dull. I can't with that child. But yeah, so it's always some kid that's got to, not be with a program. Razzleberry says, my son will be entering 5th grade in the fall, but he's already displaying some attitude. So I'm prepping and loosely planning out the next 4 years, trying to bring in more books and SEL. What's SEL? Y'all, what's SEL? It should be obvious, but I can't even think what that is. You're trying to bring in more books and SEL. Sports, extracurricular, I don't know. Razzleberry, what's SEL? So anyway, yeah, the attitudes start early. So you ain't gotta be your kid's friend. Oh, social emotional learning. Oh, that reminds me. I did do a video. I think I took it down on emotional intelligence. This is a good book to get. They have 2 versions of it. They have a little 6x9 book, and then like the regular, 8x11 or 5x7 book of whatever the other size is. But yeah, this is a really, really good book. So we're talking about the emotional mindset of your kids. This will help you with this. But this is my preferred one because it's got pictures. And I love pictures. Wait, hold on, you can't see. It's got kind of cartoons and stuff like that. So I like that. But this is like a bestseller. This, you see all the heavy hitters that talk about this one. This is a heavy hitter. So that's why I started with the mental part for starting middle school. You got to get that battle not won, because you're not going to win it, but you got to kind of get the odds on your side, or at least make it even before you dive in. I mean, obviously you're going to teach, but you're going to really focus on the intangibles, okay? Because those are very important. Can't believe I can't find my energy bus. I know I did rip the cover, but it's still on the book. So this is going to be a part 2, because I just got too much stuff to cover. Graduation for 8th grade, and how you're going to feel, how your child's going to feel, because that period is starting to wind down. But the summer before your child starts 6th grade, what kind of prep are you going to do for that? Are you change? What I did, I changed the rooms around. Either I give them new bedding. Well, I painted, my middle son, because he shares a room with his younger son, I painted their room together, and I decked it out, and I made it very independent. They have loft beds. They work underneath. They have these like curtains that they can draw, so they can like have their own privacy. They love it. And that gave them a big sense of independence. I made them start carrying their wallets. It's the little things, y'all, because we want them to start being more independent and responsible. But sometimes something as simple as saying, hey, you got your wallet on you, dude? Even if you're just going to a library, get them in the mindset of just, carrying your ID, or carrying money. And it's not because they're going to buy something. It's to start getting them to think of other things besides what they're always thinking of. Okay. What else? Like the summer before they start, if they don't have a wallet, get them a wallet. Go to the dollar store, get them a wallet, put some 5 ones in there, give them some coins, have them practice. If they don't do this already, have them practice going to the dollar store to buy things. Ask them to figure out tax before the cashier gives them the tax or tells them what the tax is. Tell them, hey, I'm gonna give you $10, and I'm gonna need you to budget this. No, okay, look, this is what you can do. Start giving them little missions. All right, you want to go to the dollar store or whatever store you normally or regularly go to, and they get stuff. Give them some money. Have them do something to earn the money, and then just give it to them. Ask them, hey, bring your money, bring a wallet. Don't say nothing. Watch what they do. How do they act with money in their pocket, in their wallet, right? Because we want them to feel that money, and we want them to feel when they're buying something, how that money goes away versus like having a credit card, right? We want them to feel like it's going to hurt pulling that money out your wallet and giving all that money to that person at the cashier, or if they do self-checkout to the machine. So see how they spend that money. They just going to buy one thing for like $10 or 5 things. Start to see is your child spendthrift? Are they frivolous? See what their financial habits are. Do they kind of talk themselves out of it? Do they ask questions? Mom, what do you think? This one's bigger, but this one costs more. But this one's bigger and it costs less. Why does it cost less? Is it going to break down? See what that process is. Have that discussion with them. But first, sit back in the cut like LL and watch what they do with that money. Okay? Let's see. Melissa says, my daughter will be in 5th grade in August. We need to work on more organizational skills with her, schoolwork, and some more independent learning. I know middle school will be here before we know it. Let me tell you, I was the queen of organization. Now, my stuff can be all messed up in FUBAR, not my babies. My oldest son. Y'all, I don't know if it's a boys thing. I was highly organized as a girl growing up, but my roommate in college was the worst. But she was an electrical engineer. So she was that logical mathematical mind thing. So you would think she would just be like, tick, 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 tick. She was the worst. And she couldn't find France on the map. but she can do differential equations like nobody's business, and she tutored. But just looking at college, I could definitely see those who did really, really, really well. And by really, really well, I mean like they were prepared for their exams like 2 weeks before the exam. They were never cramming because they were organized. And it wasn't anything elaborate. It was just basic skills that they just were consistent with. My hard subjects, I study for every day. My so-so subjects, I study for 3 times a week. My prime times where I'm mentally, at my best is from 9 to 11. I try not to schedule classes during that time. I save that time for when I study for my hard tests or for my labs. They have a system, but you got to sit with your kids. You got to watch them, see when their hour of powers are they morning, afternoon, or evening kid? Your kid likes to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning and they love math. That's when they do math. Your child wakes up around 11 o'clock and they love to write. They writing after lunch. You know, see what I'm saying? So sometimes it's just looking at what's there, being Sherlock and just connecting the dots and then running with that. Okay. But organizational skills, I still struggle with that now. Like, hello, laundry, dinner, meal prep planning. That's a lifelong battle. That is a lifelong battle. So don't fret on that. Start doing it, but don't expect perfection in 1 year. Now, your mileage may vary. This is my cocoa butter stick. My lips are dry because I'm wearing matte lipstick. Your mileage may vary, but you can buy all the fancy organizers and trapper keepers, whatever they call it now. But just have a system and just be consistent with it. I wasn't that consistent with my oldest one, and he needed the most help with it. I mean, my son would just like, for a folder, that's a dentist thing. Say he had a folder, just putting paper in the doggone folder was a mess. I mean, like, he could never, it would be all like this in the folder. I'm like, what is this? No. How do you find anything when your paper is all like that in your folder? Like, you can't get it in the groove. I didn't have time, Mom. So every day after school year, you never had time to, I said, baby, right before lunch or right before you go doing your workout, just take 1 minute to fix your paper, make it a habit. Now, he says he does it. I haven't looked in his backpack because I don't want to know the truth. But you just got to stay on them. So I'm winning the battle with 2/3 of my kids, the 1/3. Now, no, I'm losing with 2/3. 1/3 is perfect. So I know it ain't me. All right, y'all. It is 5:15. Y'all have any more questions before we get out of here? Oh, we are 2 hours in. My oldest, hey, Portia. My oldest 2 will be an 8th and 6th grader this year. Oh, you'll be like me this year. The schedule is a huge factor at this point. Oh, I already have written down that we're going to do schedules because I just found, I didn't just find, but I'm more relaxed. I'm actually kind of moving toward like some unschooling stuff approaches for certain subjects. Remember how I told you my kids kicked me out for American history? They're like, Mom, we got it. We know exactly what we're going to do. I'm like, well, what y'all going to do? What's your game plan? So they had to tell me what their plan was. It was solid and believable. So I let them do it. So I've not been in the group for almost a year, but we talk about it, but I'm not in the group. But the schedule, between, remember how I said how you can have like all kinds of classes one semester and then like one or none the following semester? Your schedule is always constantly changing. So be prepared for that and have backups, because say your child is in a 2-part class. So a writing class, and it's 2 semesters. Something happens, they don't have that second semester class. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to figure things out? My throat is dry. Actually, the water's making my throat drier. I need like, where's my tea? So you want to have, when you're this summer, if you have an idea of what subjects and classes your child's going to take, you don't have to know for sure 100%. Just write it down. Like what I would do, where's my planner? Well, usually I use index cards because I have 3 kids. And so I would have 3 color-coded cards. Sorry, 4, when all of them were in the house. 1 color for each kid, okay? And then another color when it involved all my kids. And then it went a step further where 2 kids would have something together, and then another set will have something together. So I would have a different colored card for that. And then I would just move it around. So I would start with the non-movables, online classes that were not going to change. They were going to be consistent for the whole semester or the year. And then we have to build around that. And we did that. So, you know, on some days, like in real life right now, my middle son, he has 4 online classes. He's got writing, he's got military history, he's got coding, and more like enrichment. And then he's got a math class, right? So that's a full load. So I only do reading with him that day. So I don't have that much interaction with him on, see, that's Tuesday. That's his heavy day. And he's totally fine with that. As a matter of fact, he loves that. He doesn't have to see me as much. And that's another thing you'll find out in as your kids hit middle school. They tired of looking at your face. Makes sense. I'm tired of looking at their face. So it's all good. And that's good. Take a break. Let somebody else teach your child. Nothing wrong with that. Or let your kids teach each other. They don't always have to be in front of you. Okay, so that's one thing you'll find, that you might want some break time from your child. Now, if this is your first year or if you're new still, that might not be an issue for you. That's fine. But this is the stage where your kid's still like, oh, I want to be around you. Or you might feel that way with your kids. So just because the nature of, preteens and teens. So I don't know, take that for what it is. Portia says, color coding is a life hack every parent of more than 2 needs, but I will definitely try that for scheduling. Thank you. Do you think 7 classes is too many in a semester? Nope. Depends on what it is. To answer your first thing, color coding, I have color coded my kids since before they could crawl. Clothes were color coded. Well, okay, I always did bright colors whenever I was out with my kids, because all my kids are runners, and it would be easy for me to, I was at a botanical garden event. It was like, what's the woman, Diamond? She was saying 4 hearts a day. That's the minimum. Charlotte Diamond, I think. And she came and she did a performance. It was like obviously a lot of kids and parents and PED ... And one mom lost her little toddler, and she was so frantic. And so they were like, okay, you know how moms go on alert when there's a kid in danger, in peril. And they're like, okay, what's he wearing? And she was like, a blue shirt. And so one of the moms says, is it dark blue, light blue? And she freaks. She goes, I don't know. It's blue. It's blue. And everybody just dispersed. Like, just find any child in a blue shirt that's, redhead with freckles. And from that day on, because my kids were like still on my hip, I was like, any place we go, my kids are wearing either fluorescent orange, fluorescent green, or fluorescent yellow. That was all when we went out to events where it was a lot of kids. That's it, because most kids aren't going to be wearing that. And if they are, that drastically cuts down on how many kids you're going to be seeing, because mostly everybody's in pink or they in blue or, something like that, plaid, whatever. Mine were in solid colors. I would go to Gap. I would go all the stores that just Target that just have basic solid colors and fluorescent colors. My kids are in. So if I ever show you like some pictures from when they were younger, you'll see all these bright, everything was a bright color shirt. It might have some little text stuff on it, but it was always a bright color shirt. So if somebody came up to me, I'm like, oh God, I can't find my kids. Where they were in? They were in a fluorescent green shirt, like from Baywatch, or fluorescent orange. We can see that. Good. So it's like they're wearing like a little mini life vest, to those events. Never again. But, I color code myself. Everything in my closet is blue, black, brown, patterns. It just makes it easier. There's less thinking that you have to do. So yeah, I do that, Portia. Your other question was, do you think 7 classes are too many? No, because I've done 7, because you're bringing in, for me, fallacies. They're like the baby subjects. The subjects, I did a video on this, the subjects that get neglected the most. Poetry, creative writing. Yes, creative writing. Logical fallacies, sometimes grammar, anything in the arts, whether it's drawing, typing, things like that. So it's not your meat and potato subjects. But like, for example, my oldest one, when he was, I don't even know what grade he was in. Okay, math, writing, reading. Okay. Now we had 2 kinds of reading. We had assigned reading, which would be our classics. I'm doing reading comprehension questions. We're doing the Socratic method. So that's one type of reading. And then you would have leisure reading. So he can choose what he wanted to read, and we wouldn't have discussions on it, but he had to do like silent reading. And that was it was like 30 minutes. So that was like a subject, because that was a block of time that could have been devoted to something else. Why was I doing that? Because I didn't want to burn my kids out on, they would read some pretty lofty books. So I wanted them to be able to just grab a book, Geronimo, Magic Tree House, or in the Ender Game, stuff like that. So math, writing, reading, literature, reading, history, financial literacy, that gets neglected. Always logical fallacies, spelling, vocabulary, grammar. That's what, 10? If we take away the other reading, that's 9 right there. That's when you, if you have more than 5 subjects, you might want to kind of switch to like a loop schedule. Now, I did a video on loop scheduling versus block scheduling. I think I may have taken it down. But with loop scheduling, it's good if you have a lot of subjects, because you can't just do it every day. You can't do 7, 8, 9 subjects a day, okay, properly. So loop scheduling, you start with number 1, do those, and then whatever time you're done with homeschool, you stop with that subject. The next day, you go to the next subject, and you keep going until you're done with that day and that subject. And then if you've hit say you're doing 8 subjects, if you've hit 8 subjects in 4 days, on the 5th day, you go back to subject number 1. So you just you don't go back, or you just go to the next subject in your lineup. Okay. So that way you're able to touch all the subjects. Now, it's going to be a snail's pace getting through that, but you're going to have, so it's almost like, if any of you guys are familiar with the building blocks science curriculum, I think it's Real Science for Kids. They have 2 versions. They have one where they deep dive on one subject. So it's chemistry for one semester, biology for the next semester for that year. Or you can do chemistry, biology, and physics all in one year, I think, and astronomy. So you're going to be exposed to all these sciences, but only bite-sized amounts of exposure, because you're doing more. Versus if you just do chemistry and biology, you're going to dive deeper because you're just covering 2. So that's like loop scheduling. So loop scheduling is going to be like, okay, we're going to do all this stuff. We want the exposure for it. And then next year we can do block, where we can go deeper in it, because now we have a background. We got the input here. Now we can start being logical and making sense out of it. So you can approach it like that. So loop scheduling is, let's just get the information in, let's get the exposure in. And with the block scheduling, it's like, oh, let's go deeper. Let's dive deeper in that. Okay. So you'll cover less subjects, but you're going deeper in that. Let's see. Portia, it's too true. They're over. Yes, they are over mom teaching. And you know what? I'm glad, because I don't want to see near one of them. I'm tired of teaching. I'm like, it's like when we go on vacation, it's never a vacation for me. I'm like, when was the last time I ever had a vacation? Then I have to ask myself, when was the last time I was not around my kids? Because that's a vacation. So it's not really a vacation, because usually I'm just going somewhere for not a long period of time. But when we do vacations, it's never a vacation. So I'm like, I've been working nonstop for like 16 and a half. I've been working nonstop for 16 and a half years. I need a real vacation. All right, BG says, we still have just a few years to get to middle school. I have written down all of your recommendations, and these are quite helpful. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Oh, you're welcome, BG. And I hope I'm saying your name right. I don't even know. Are you a lady or a man? BG could be anything. Not that it matters. I just like to have more info. Portia says, I also used to take a picture getting in the car heading to an event, because if I froze, I could show a picture, yes, of what they're what they're learning or what they're wearing. Take a picture in the car heading to an event, because if I froze, I could, oh, you probably mean a picture of what they're wearing. Yes, like, because back then my kids were younger. Well, yeah, we had our cell phones and stuff. You can just show me your cell phone, but you're not gonna give them your cell phone. So yeah, if you have a picture, then you can whoop it out, and authority person can like show it around, or at least, or you just flash it to everybody and they can at least like see the face. Okay, blonde, black hair, or fudge chocolate ice cream all over her cheeks. You just any additional information you can give is like so ideal. So ideal. Let's see. Malibu says, so informative. Thank you. Yes, that's what I was thinking. You explained so well what is jumbled in my mind. Listen, y'all see me stumbling over these teeth in these words. So thank you for hanging in there. Oh, guys, if you do me a favor, please put a like on the channel. That really helps YouTube know that I exist in this little corner of the universe. And that makes me more inclined to be on here for almost 2.5 hours talking with y'all, chopping it up. All right, I'll take 1 or 2 more questions and then we'll get out of here. I will go until 2:30. 2:30. So give me some questions, give me some wonderings, give me some thoughts, give me something. Oh, I am pronouncing your name correctly, and I am female. Oh, okay, so Fiji. Fiji. I need to put like a nice little exotic spin on it, because I want to say Fiji. So Fiji or Fiji. Is it Fiji or Fiji? Or Fiji? Fiji? Fiji. Fiji. I'm just playing. Any other questions? After watching your videos, I recently purchased some novel unit. Yay! Did you get it from the Umbrella? I think it's the Umbrella bookstore. I love that seller. This woman got me through so many books. Let me tell you. One of my tricks for getting through a lot of classic books, or any just good quality books, audiobooks and novel unit studies. And the reason why I say that, you don't have to do every page in the novel unit study. You can do one page, one chapter on, one chapter off, or for this chapter, just focus on characters. Next chapter, just focus on setting questions, or whatever, however that chapter is broken up. But my kids don't like it all the time. But there are some novel unit studies that are cut like this, like a reporter's notebook. Back when reporters had notebooks, really, really thin. And so they didn't have to write a lot. So my kids loved that. It was fun. And then they were like kind of cool to look at, because they would use them as fans sometimes. But yeah, I think I did a video on a couple of my favorite TPT sellers. Stacy Lloyd for middle school and up. She's mainly high school, but you can adapt it to middle school. She's great. The Umbrella bookstore is phenomenal. All Things Algebra by Gina something. Of course, for the younger kids, the Moffat girls, Annie from the Moffat girls, Hello Literacy, D.D. Willis. Oh man, they had some good stuff. Some really good stuff. I think I did a yes, Gay Miller. Yeah. Gay Miller. Oh yeah, that's a lot of stuff. Okay, Portia says, I saw our state requires public schoolers to do a digital literacy course. Oh, really? What's, if you don't mind sharing, Portia, what state are you in? My kids found Khan Academy, but I wonder if you have more suggestions for a digital literacy. So they're just talking about basic digital literacy. Well, it depends on what do they accept as an acceptable class. If it's just, hey, it's just a class that has the label on it and you're good, then I would go on to OutSchool. I would get a book. Like if you want to teach it yourself on digital literacy. As a matter of fact, hold on. I got some for you. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hate picking up my phone. I don't like picking up my phone between 5 o'clock my time and 7, because that's when all the coaches, my kids got all these things going on, and they're always like, we got another fundraiser, we got this, can you come here? I'm like, oh my goodness. All right, digital. And then what grade? Portia, did you say you had the 8th and the 6th grader? Who was that had the 8th and this? Oh, you're in West Virginia? I was born in Virginia. Kind of a neighbor. Portia, I think you had the 8th and the 6th grader, or did you have the 5th grader? Let me know. Like digital literacy. So have you heard of Common Sense Media? Digital literacy. Not Common Sense Media, but that's a good site. Study.com. Now, if you do their free trial, I believe it's good for 30 days. I believe they still have a free trial. But if you do their free trial, they have digital literacy classes on there. Go in there, get that free trial, print out the lesson plan, the worksheets, watch the videos, and keep it moving. But Khan is good. Khan has really, Khan's doing AI now. So Sal has really leveled up Khan Academy. Let's see. Yeah, because a lot of times, like my son at his high school, they had a digital literacy, but they called it something similar to that. It was digital common sense, no, digital citizenship. So it's like how to be safe online, how not to be a bully, how to, report a bully, how to navigate the internet, how to discern resources, what's a credible website, things like that. So that's something you can easily teach. You can go on to, let me see. Let's go to study.com. I think I paused my membership, but I think it kicks up in June. Or it might still be going on. I might need to. Hold on, y'all. I'm pulling it up. I'm going to log in and see if it's still. Resume your account today. Resume. Oh, okay. I had it paused until June 18th. Okay. Well, let me see if I can still get in there and then show you. I wonder if I have access to my stuff. I like study.com, guys. That's a good place to get some of your learning resources, your teaching resources. Can I get to the dashboard? All right, search courses and lessons. Let's just see. Digital literacy. I spell that right? Okay, and you have one Brain Pop. It would be kind of babyish. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see if I do this right. All right, I'm about to share my screen. That's what it's called, not literacy. It was digital citizenship. You got it. Okay, yeah. So, and Portia says, we don't follow the public recommendations too much, but for the rising 8th grader, plan for high school. I'll tell you a quick story. Just remind me. High school credit. Remember high school credit, because there was a boy in my son's choir class, and two situations. One, I had one friend. Just remember high school credit. But let me share my screen. Share screen, and study.com. Share the window. Chrome. Not the tab, just the window. Oh, it's not trying to share. It's only going to let me share in the Chrome tab, which means it's going to show my whole StreamYard stuff, and you don't want to see me. You want to see the window. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to see. Sometimes it does that when my connection is low. Okay, so let me share window. Okay, let me click on it. Oh, no, it's showing the whole. I don't want to share the whole screen. I want to share that one window. Let me try again. This happened last time, and I had to get out and then get back into it. All right, let me close this. I might have too many windows open. All right, so let me click here. Bear with me, guys. Let me stop sharing screen. Let me reshare. Yeah, it says you should have 2 monitors. I do. I just don't have it hooked up because my ass is lazy. All right, so all right, I don't want to share the. Oh well. How did it work last time? Oh, wait a minute. I think what I can do. It says share the tab. Okay, window, entire screen. Oh, duh. I didn't click on the screen. Okay, hold on. I'm being having a blonde moment. I'm gonna do it one more time. Okay, I wasn't clicking on study.com. All right. Study. Okay. There we go. All right, I have to remember to click on whatever that was. All right, so let me get myself out the picture. Okay, so this is results for study.com. All right, so results for digital literacy. All right, so what is digital literacy? Definition example, quiz and worksheet, how to teach digital literacy. Let's try this one out. Or teaching digital literacy. That's a tutoring solution. Let's go here. Let's just see what their outputs look like, their handouts. Because that's probably what your state wants to see. All right, so you got your little quiz right here. 1 to 3 questions. Print worksheet. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, basic, multiple choice. Access to all video lessons, quizzes, practice exams, worksheets. Okay, just giving you the lay of the land, y'all. All right, and then over here, you come over to the sidebar. You're reviewing quiz 66 in chapter 8 of the course. So what's this? That don't look like for what we're doing. All right, let's go to the lesson. All right, so here we go. So you got here. Wait, no, that's something else. No? Pedagogy, digital literacy in the classroom. That's what I'm looking at. Okay. Make time, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you at least see course. I don't know how I clicked on the tutoring solution. But you get the point. So I'll go back to, how did I even get here? I clicked something wrong. All right, let's do what is digital literacy. All right, so you have a video. Okay. All right, this is more like it. Smartphones, tablets, laptops. What is cloud computing? Practice exams. All right, so now it doesn't say what the grade level is for this. I'm sure it says it somewhere, but this gives you something to do. So I like study.com. I like study.com because you can easily, like, we're with a charter and you have to turn in work samples. It wasn't always that way. Well, because we weren't always charter, but it's always easy to go grab something, just print it out, have your kids do it. Or if you just want to give them something to reinforce what they're doing, or if you don't have anything planned, you're flying by the seat of your pants, you can go to study.com. I think the monthly subscription is a little steep. But you can always pause for like 3 or 4 months, resume. So what you could do, maybe take a weekend. gather as much resources as you can, pause it for the rest of that year. I mean, that semester. And then next semester, when you know what you're going to be teaching or whatever, go get all your resources, take like a weekend or so. So you're really paying for that month, that 1 month, and then pause it, and then, split it with somebody, So, where there's a will, there is a way. All right. Last comment, question, and then we're going to wrap it up. Have you had any experience with moving beyond the page curriculum? Yes. Okay. So moving beyond the page is what we call an all-in-one curriculum, kind of like Bookshark, but it's a smorgasbord. It has all your subjects. Okay. And all the subjects kind of have the same philosophy attached to it. For example, when I used it, I only used it for a semester, and then I borrowed it from my girlfriend. And I only really wanted the science part of it because I always struggle with science. Everything else I was fine. But it's pricey though. But with moving beyond the page, hold on. Let me show you an example. I have Bookshark, and it's not. There's no way I'm gonna be able to reach that. It's way up there, next to my. I got prep food all up against this wall. Let me just put it down for another day. Where's my papers? So I'm moving beyond the page. Did y'all see what I did with that paper when I was talking about my son, and I was crumpling up that paper? Somehow the pen disappeared too. Oh, right here. So I'm moving beyond the page. We would have, like, say, classical, like a classical approach, meaning, wait, hold on, what'd I say? Moving beyond the page versus Bookshark. I'll do that. They're not going to give you an all-in-one curriculum that is all across the board with educational philosophy, meaning you're not going to get like a Charlotte Mason approach to writing and then a traditional math textbook. You might get something like Life or Fred, because that's more in the spirit of Charlotte Mason or something like that. Or you might get all classical kind of approaches to the subjects in the box. So actually, moving beyond the page, when I used it, they used The History of Us, Joy Hakeem, which is a literature approach to history. They had Life of Fred, a literature approach to math. So that was science. Did I use science? Okay, yeah. History was History of Us, Life of Fred. Science was Joy Hakeem, Aristotle's, I forget, there's 2 books, Aristotle's something, and the story of whatever those 2 books, y'all know what I'm talking about, those 2 by Joy Hakeem, those science books, something Aristotle something. And then reading was, I think, lightning literature. So you see the theme here. So science was literature based, history was literature based, math was literature based. So they'll kind of have the same kind of philosophies, just so it's not a drastic change from subject to subject. But if you wanted something different, maybe you want Charlotte Mason for writing, you want something more traditional in math, you can buy it in like a 9-week module, or you can buy it things singly. Like you can just buy the science, or you can just buy the writing, or you can just, instead of buying that curriculum for the whole year, you could buy 9 weeks worth of that curriculum, or like a semester's worth. I think they did a semester. I do remember they had like maybe 6 to 9 weeks where you can buy their materials. It's a lot of books. That's all I'm going to say. It's a lot of books. So you'll be buying a lot of books. But if you have a lot of kids, it does work out to your favor, because they will be using all of that. You'll be recycling that. I liked it. I just, if you're just starting out, or if you just want it all done for you, you don't want to have to think about it. That's open and go. That's as open as go as it gets, right? I'm more eclectic, so I like this, but I want that, and I want that. And so there you have it. But yeah. Um, some people either love it or hate it, but it does serve a purpose. So figure out if that's something you want to bring into your household. You don't have to commit to the whole thing because those things cost like $1,000, $800. Like if you want to get the whole kit and caboodle, it can set you back a pretty penny. And if you're not with a charter where you get instructional funds, that's a grip, especially if you have multiple kids. So that's something to think about. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so Melissa, that was my experience with it. I used it for like 9 weeks for the science part because I didn't need all the other things because I already had it. Reminding you for another day. Oh, high school credits. Okay. So when my son was a freshman, he had this kid in his choir class. He was a junior. But it was choir, so anybody freshmen to seniors can take that class for their elective. And it was sweetest boy. He played the guitar, still does, and he sings. Big tall boy. You think he was like on the O line for football. And I found out that we were at the same homeschool charter. I'm like, how come I never seen you or anything? So he tells me he transferred his junior year. And I said, how is that possible? Because high schools are stingy with their high school credits. So like my son could homeschool and get high school credit. And then if he wanted to go to high school in 10th grade, like I know our schools started cracking down on how many transfer credits they will accept. After that, it'll just be an elective and you'll have to take those classes. So like if you came in as a junior and you had exceeded your credits, or if they didn't accept your credits, you have to go to 9th grade math and you were a junior in high school because they're not obligated to accept your credits. So what, at least in California, if you do what's called A through G classes, then the schools have to accept the credit. And so you can, if you had enough credits to be an 11th grader, when you went to high school, public high school, you would be an 11th grader. But if you did like homeschool with your mom or maybe a co-op, the school was not obligated to take any of your credits. Or if they had mercy on you, like social mercy, because they didn't want like an 11th grader with 9th graders, they might be stingy and give you some credit, but then not others. So, so if you're thinking at any time you might put your kid in public high school, now, this is a problem in California with what's called A through G credits, and that's only for what's called the University of California system. It's this real, don't even get me started on it, but it doesn't apply to the rest of the country unless they have something similar to A through G, but I haven't seen that. And A through G just stands for each letter is a subject category, like English, history, performing arts, all of that. But yeah, so he did it the right way. The mom did the record keeping. She kept a list of all his classes. She made sure for every class that he took that he had the syllabus, the test, mainly just the syllabus and the test. And just in case they asked for it, and they asked for it for writing, because with foreign languages and math, it's very easy to kind of gauge proficiency. You can't do that with the abstract classes like history or English. There's no standard test, but you can give a math test anywhere in the country. A fraction is a fraction is a fraction. Foreign language, translating, I want to go to the store. I mean, if you can translate that in the language and we understand it, then you pass. So those are proficiencies that you can gauge, but other things it's hard. So they were a little stingy with that, but he was very smart. And so they gave him the credit. So they had to fight for some of it, but he's a very smart kid. And the principal's like, give him what he needs, right? So all that to say, but the mom kept good records, okay? And all she did was make sure, and we'll have a class on that, on the syllabus and the test, and maybe 1 or 2 work samples to showcase the work for that year or for that subject. Just throw it in a folder, throw it in a Target bag, whatever. Don't touch it, put it off to the side. Preferably you put it in a notebook and you divide it by 9th grade, or 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, whatever. That way it's easier for you to find the information when you start making transcripts or when you're deciding to transfer and go to a public school. Thank you for reminding me, Portia. Hey, Elsa! You know I have to go into my soprano voice when you come on in. I'm about to get out of here. It's almost 3 hours. Start dog Callie. Let me close the door really quickly. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna keep talking, y'all. I just need it. Once one dog starts barking, the whole neighborhood gets in on it. Any more questions? Yeah, so we can talk about high school. See, my kids, I'm not homeschooling high school. Like my 8th grader, he's seen his brother in high school and he wants to try it out. Because now they have an animation program, like a really big one, like a big partner. So he's like, oh, I want to go there now. So I said, okay, well, we'll try it out. Like with your brother, we'll try it out for the first semester. And if you like it, we'll finish out the year. And you can decide if you want to homeschool or go back to or stay with public school. That's what I did with my older son. He does football, competitive football. So I knew he wasn't going to come back to homeschool. So, but if you're even, oh, no worries, Hassan. We've been on here for a long time. I always like when you roll through. I appreciate that. Oh, thanks, Malibu. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, but anyway, so I plan like 3, 4, 5 years ahead. So speaking of which, y'all, we got to have a special marathon about marathon live. I'm gonna bring food, I'm gonna eat, and I'm gonna bring y'all on too on life after high school. It's not too early to plan. Things are so rapidly changing. Let me tell you, my son is in this artificial intelligence program through the Department of Defense. He started in August. The program, they had their capstone like a couple weeks ago. Why was their stuff out of date already? That's how fast the technology is moving. It is crazy. I mean, by the time my son, who is a sophomore, by the time he graduates from high school, half the jobs are going to be gone. A third will be created. It's a wild, wild west. And it's a lot of adjustments we are all going to have to make. So, but yeah, so I already had his high school binder ready when he was like in 5th or 6th grade, because I back engineer. So I see, what do I have to do to prepare for this to get into that? Because I have to allow for times when I ain't got my together, I forget something, I miss a deadline, I have to wait a year or a semester because I didn't get the information. So that's why I'm always doing things years in advance, because I allow for missteps to come in. So if it does happen, it's not catastrophic for me. I factor that in and I just roll with the punches, and I'm better and ready for when the time does come around. So, like for transcripts, I already had his stuff, like the demo syllabus, a workup, a mock-up, all kinds of stuff. His college essay, the hero's journey, I've been working on that, just jotting down things. I just throw into his folder things I see him do during the year. I'm like, okay, yeah, this shows your hero arc, right? It's that obstacle. Remember when you got the concussion and you were out of school for 2 weeks and you couldn't see, you couldn't talk, and you were first year back into public school? So, I just throw all that stuff in a Ziploc bag that's in a sleeve, and anything that relates to the hero's journey. Okay. Because you got to tell your story. It's because obviously I do literature based for everything, but as a writer and as a humans are motivated and moved by stories. Like, I'm a big sports fan. I can't connect to a team unless I have a connection or a story to the team or the player or the coach or some situation that went down with that team. So stories connect us, they bind us, and they humanize us. So can never go wrong with a story. So what's your story? My story is, it is 2:53. Do I want to push it to 3 hours? Look at all these little lines on my head. I just now noticed them, these creases. Lord. I'm about 275 years old and loving it. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up because those dogs are getting on my nerves. All right, Portia says, I'm so glad I caught you today. That's a great conversation for another day. Volunteer hours, yes, and extra special programs outside of school, even reverse planning for transcripts. Yeah, just get it down on paper. Like when I write, like my son, when he free writes, just get the thoughts down because that will generate more things, and you don't have to act on it, so it's not overwhelming. Just get it down in some way, shape, or form. Type it up, write it, do both. Just get it on paper. It helps to kind of make the clouds dissipate a bit, and you can just focus. And you can't remember everything. You know, you might have found out from some mom from on the playground that, oh, did you know that middle schoolers, the hospital has this thing, but it's only for 2 months where they can come in and do this, kind of like a candy striper, but on the level up. But you got to hurry up, and the deadline's tomorrow. And you heard him do it, and your son gets in, and you weren't expecting that, so your life is hectic and chaotic, and you didn't write anything about that. And then your kid's in middle school or a freshman, and by the time the year is over, you've probably forgotten about it. Or you know about it, but you didn't grab any literature or talk to the director or the person who runs the program to say, hey, do you have like a one sheet or a syllabus or just something that says the name of the program, the person that's over the program or the sponsor of the program, what the program does, so you ain't got to think about it, and then you put it in your child's folder, record keeping. Now, I didn't say it was perfect record keeping. I just said record keeping. So just get the stuff in the folder. We can have a class on how to keep the records. Because let me tell you, being in special needs, the special ed community, baby, when you have a behaviorist, occupational therapist, a speech therapist, when you have to be organized. You're dealing with the law. We had a educational, a special needs lawyer. You have to keep, because it's going to cost you money. So you got to know your stuff. You got to be able to access the information quickly. So you got to know where it is. You got to know what your filing system is, like your thought process of where you're placing stuff, so you can easily find it when the time comes, or at least be able to, like, it's a mess, but you know where the mess is. So those are all things that you want to keep in mind. So with that, put a like on the channel. We will be having another live. I think we might have to go twice a week, but I'm not sure, just so we don't have like these long 3-hour lives unless you guys like them. But thank you so much, my diehards who are still in here with me. I appreciate that. Also, if you have any comments, any videos you would like for me to do, put them in the comment section. I do read them. Even if I don't respond right away, I do read them. So I love you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here with me. I will see you on the next share. This is Nikki with the Homeschool Knockouts, reminding you, because I keep forgetting to say this in the video, be the knockout in your homeschool. You can do this. Love you guys. Bye-bye.